so solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
Good evening, YouTube. Greetings and welcome to Solving the World's Problems. What the fuck?
Huh? What happened?
What?
Does anybody else hear this terrible, terrible echo?
No.
No.
It's just me.
It must be.
Yeah, we're.
No, there it is.
I've been
Sweet
noticing
mother
that
of
there is
Christ.
there are occasionally echoes that get generated when you stream audio, and somehow
This is really
it replicates the audio
It's
in the
like some-
I think
some-
Zaxx
some-
mentioned it.
Form of hell.
Especially when you share your
That's what I'm
your
talking
screen.
about.
Yeah. Your little montage probably did it.
It's never happened before. It's all new. It's a brand new hell for me. That's awesome.
Well, we just upgraded, didn't we?
No,
Didn't
no, now it's gone. Now it's gone. Now the hell is gone. Okay, I'll take it.
Yep.
I didn't hear anything.
I didn't
Well,
either.
good. Welcome to the show. Clearly, it's going well. Tonight, we're looking at the problem of war. And what do you do about it? You win the goddamn thing. That's what you should do. Do we always do that? Not always. Sometimes we don't do a very good job of it. But today is our Veterans Day special, and we're going to be talking about
War movies.
Oh my God, what is that song from the '60s? War!
Yeah.
Good God!
Hey,
What's it good
Stephen,
for?
I'm going to ask you to take the helm for 1 second. I'm going to just extract myself from the stream and come back in because I am in fucking hell right now.
Wait, what? Why?
He's
I'm
got
in
an
audio
echo.
hell. All I'm hearing is myself talking over everything else. Con!
Do you have the stream up on YouTube, like watching it at
It's
the
a
same
different
time?
computer.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to mute it, right? Otherwise,
Oh,
it's
fucking shit, dick, fuck.
Eh.
The other computer was on, kids, and
Yeah.
that's the problem. Thank you, Shieldwall, for troubleshooting my issues.
Yep, exactly. Well, that
Oh
was
my
Please,
God.
please don't leave the show. We're still hanging in there.
that's
So-
yeah.
God damn it!
Nice
All
sentiment,
right, we're
Jim.
done for the night, folks. Thank you for coming and enjoying the show. No, God,
Dude, I
these
love
things-
it when you go full Yosemite Sam every single time. It's absolutely fantastic.
These things shouldn't still happen at this point. This should all be smoothed out. I had fucking YouTube open on this computer, and it's never open on this computer. I have 3 fucking computers out here, and it was up on the wrong one. Anyway, welcome to the show, folks. Tonight, we are going to be talking about war movies in honor of Veterans Day. Oddly, all 4 of us who are here right now have served in the military. Before we get rolling into what we've done, I just wanted to give a very brief history of Veterans Day for those of you who aren't aware or maybe underaware. Oh, awesome.
Yes, we just profited.
Welcome, Prophet of the Dragons, Steve, for showing up to the show. He's not always on time, kids, but he's always there for you.
That's true.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I guess I'd rather be there for you than on time. I guess that's better.
It's certainly
I
very
think
Caribbean.
it sounds
of you.
better, at least. So on May 13th of 1938, the treaty the United States recognized or signed into a holiday recognizing the Treaty of Versailles, which was Armistice Day, was what it was known as then, and most of the world recognized Armistice Day, and many countries still do. And it wasn't until 1954, after World War II, you know, the war that didn't end all wars, and then Korea happens, that Dwight Eisenhower signed in the Veterans Day Proclamation, which basically replaced veterans with, you know, armistice with veterans. And that's how you get modern Veterans Day. So in most countries, Armistice Day still is both a celebration and Memorial Day, kind of a combination, whereas we have separated the two, with Memorial Day being the last Monday in May, and Veterans Day continuing the tradition of celebrating on the 11th of November. So, in case you were curious, is fighting his own personal. I am. It's not a good war, and I don't feel like I'm winning. So we have. In fact, I'm fairly certain that I'm losing. So we have Mags with us. Mags, thank you for showing up tonight. Jade the Deep-Minded, Jacob Ironside, Invader Zim, one of my personal favorites out there in the world, Zaxx, one of the great masters of the interwebs, and I think that's and Thad, Matt, or the Unbearable 73, depending on the platform. He's got the brain the size of a Volkswagen, and we love him. So tonight we're going to be talking about war movies. And I did want to go around the panel real fast for those of us that have had service. Stephen, we've actually never talked about this. Did you?
I've never served I'm not a combat veteran.
You were National Guard, but other Steve, other than his battles in World of Warcraft.
No other service. I never served. So a few family members in the past, but not me.
Got it. All right, so I'm just gonna throw up some pictures here because I do want to share. So Shieldwall, Blair de Blair, and Stephen Ransom, who is unable to share pictures tonight because technology is fighting him. Did you get one over, Stephen Ransom?
Oh no, I did get it over. I was able to get it over, and it's one of the only shots I have of me when I was serving. Training up for communications, Army National Guard, and it was in Fort Gordon, Georgia, back in 1991, when Saddam Hussein was still a young problem.
So actually, all of us were serving about the same period, which I think is I'd say interesting, but knowing how old all of us are, it's actually appropriate.
Well, I mean, I went in because it was peacetime. I mean, I was of the right age.
Well, see, that's not a bad reason to go in. I mean, I went in for a myriad of reasons, most of which I just needed to get the fuck out of the piece of shit hometown I was in. So here we have
that's a major motivation right there.
Yep.
Shieldwall of Dragons. Look at that handsome young man.
Yeah. Is that you, dude?
That is me. That's second Gulf War.
At what belly of what aircraft are you in?
That's a F-15C. Those are the generators that generate the electrical power. And that was my job, was to work on the electrical system. That's my time in England. That's for my restricted area badge. I kept the picture.
Nice job, buddy.
Yeah.
When you guys say restricted area, it's the same way that the Navy thinks of restricted area.
Yeah, it's a badge you have to display to be around the aircraft. So, like just any old person just walking up and messing with them and stuff.
Oops. Roman got ahead of himself. Where are we here?
Piccadilly Circus in London.
Oh, very nice.
Of course. Yeah. Nice.
Look at you being all fancy and stuff.
Yeah.
Funny how we don't have any pictures from Philippines. And here.
That's me swearing.
The big day.
Yep.
The big day. We're in a
That's you
sweater.
swearing that sweater is going to be with you for the rest of your life. I mean, that's a handsome sweater, young man.
It was the 80s. It was the 80s, man. Cut me some slack.
And we're allowed to make fun of each other, boys and girls, because that's what veterans do.
Yep. Exactly.
And so how long did you serve?
26 years.
26 years. Good run, brother.
Yeah, it had its moments.
I'm sorry, Salty. We don't have any donuts.
Mags has a donut attached to her name now permanently. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for that.
What can I say? The donut lore is rich in Greenfield. What can I say?
Oh my God! Actually,
Like
Steve,
Max needs any help.
Steve, I feel like you are a veteran after enduring your game last night. I feel like you've been there and done that. It was rough. It was rough. I'm not gonna lie.
I've played many a game that is rough, so I don't know, especially when you got the young one around. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I wish I did, but just never really had the opportunity to serve. So
no, and again, it's not a for everyone kind of gig, and I don't like what the fuck keyboard? Seriously?
Language.
Hitting it'll make it work better.
It's now my keyboard has given up.
Cursing it too.
Yeah. Really? Did you actually give up? There you go. Now it's back. Okay. So here is our young man, Blair de Blair, our favorite internet wizard, looking less wizardly, looking more like a young apprentice.
Beardless. My God.
Dude.
Yeah, it's amazing what time does, isn't it?
That's my boot photo from '89, Great Lakes, Illinois.
Well, I feel bad for you. What month were you up there?
February is when I got there. I showed up in a nice little windbreaker. I looked very nice, and it was fucking Hoth. It was
Great Lakes is in Chicago, in case you're not aware of that, boys and girls.
Right on the lake. So. Right on the lake. Wind. It was snow and ice everywhere.
It's excellent. What a terrible plan that was. And then we have our young man actually in the lab here. Look at him. Look at him. He's just a baby.
That's Bethesda, Maryland. Probably 91. So I was a hospital corpsman. And I was an 8501 basic lab technician. So once I got out of Great Lakes, I went to Fort Sam Houston for METC, where they trained a lot of medical stuff. And then I wound up in Bethesda, Maryland for 3 years. And then I got out.
Jim the Viking is in the text right now. Jim, first I want to ask why you're awake. And two, you're not incorrect. Yes, keyboards and foreheads are not friends. And that's how you end up spending money, and that's fine. You're an IT guy, you know the business. Jim the Viking, one of our friends over in the UK. Poor Blair de Blair.
That's really fun.
All right, and so this is Jacob Ironside's grandfather. He served in the 101st. And he was, if I'm not mistaken, Jacob, I saw a picture earlier. He was at the Battle of Bastogne, which, if any of you have seen Band of Brothers, was pretty fucking horrible. So, that's the historical things I find just amazing. And this is actually my grandfather, Robert Terenzini. He went into the Navy 1 year before Pearl Harbor. Ooh. And, it's decisions. We all make them. And it is actually, Max, thank you for pointing that out. It is the Marine Corps' birthday. So happy birthday to my brothers and sisters in green. You're okay. You're okay. You're good in the fight. You're not much for conversation, but you're good in the fight.
In all fairness, I wanted to say that the Captain Finity mentioned that a few lines ago, that we were celebrating their birthday.
And so this is my wife's grandfather. This is Earl Anderson. He was at the beaches on D-Day when everything was getting shot to shit. So he recovered from the war, and he ended up retiring as an E9.
Wow.
This is Jacob of the Empire, my son's other grandfather, Carrie. Oh God, dear Lord. Mrs. of the Empire's other grandfather, pictured here, Milton McCurry. And he was a major in the Air Force during World War II. He flew bombers.
Yeah, look at that Military Airlift Command on that sign behind him there. Yep.
Back in the day, yep. I think he was actually in the Army Air Corps before it was the Air Force.
Back when it was MAC. Yep.
And here's Mrs. of the Empire's dad. This is during Vietnam. Sitting on the deck of a supply ship, looking really happy. And I would say, son, your hair is too long. Get a haircut. And here he is
One of
again.
my favorite lines in Apollo 13.
Same. This is the boot camp from before he went to Vietnam. And this is my dad. So I have a dad and a pop. It's a divorce story. I have a biological father and an adopted father. This is my birth father. I retired from the Air Force as an E8. Got the Meritorious Service Medal, not a small accomplishment for a career. And this is his wife, Marcia. She was also Air Force. We have a lot of veterans in our family. And then there's this fucking retard.
Who's that kid?
That'd be me.
That's really funny.
Look at those fucking ears. They're ginormous. And that's me. And a little older. And that's me at the end. Old and plump and very happy. So
very distinguished.
That's the photo shell. Oh, Steven. I need to find Steven here. Give me a second here.
Yeah, I'm actually not in the shot.
What the fuck, Steven?
Well, it's kind of part of
Oh
the
dear
whole...
God, what am I doing over here? No hardware connected. What the fuck does that even mean, computer? Fucking hardware. I'll give you your fucking hardware. Okay, so did you send it directly to me, Steven?
Yes, I did.
Oh, here
Yes,
we go.
I did.
Okay, got it. All right. And okay, I'm going to share this now, and you can explain what is going on.
Oh. I cannot for the life of me remember this mixed bag of any of their names. It's kind of crazy.
You just found it on the floor somewhere.
No. I'm actually holding the camera. I remember that this guy out front on the left is named Peoples. And I definitely remember that the Marine in the olive drab shirt, the girl in front of him, Drake, they married before they finished up communication.
These two? Really?
Yep.
Whoa.
We
talk about fraternization, kids, and there's a reason for that.
That's pretty common. And you'd go to an Air Force, you'd go to the training, and then there'd be people married by the time you came out of it. And, it was 17 weeks for some of it, but depending on what you were doing.
Yeah, and people don't get that AIT, especially for classes like communications level classes. It's almost like you're on vacation. Like the style of the buildings that you're hanging out in and stuff. I mean, it's not like boot camp. I mean, when I was at Tank Hill, that place was a friggin' disaster. I mean, those must have been barracks left over from World War II or something like that.
You are not far off, Stephen. That most of the stuff that you did at a training location was like World War II old.
Yeah,
especially back
I
then.
think that was the way it was for most of us.
Yeah.
We were living in some old shit for our post boot camp training stuff. It was uncool. All right.
Yeah.
So let's hop into the stuff. Oh, who's trying. Oh, never mind. I was gonna say who's trying to get in the stream, but it's me. It's not funny.
Wow.
I hate my life so much. So we're gonna do this the way we usually do our shows. We're gonna go round table. Someone in this case, it'll be Steve to the left of me, right of me. I guess it's perspective. We'll bring up a movie and then we'll start talking about. Did we lose somebody? What happened?
I'm just shuffling the
fuck,
the
Steven,
panel
you can't do that to me. I'm 111 years old. You can't just switch up on me like that.
Well, now we bookend the conversation. So Steve goes first, and then Blair, and then Shieldwall, and then myself after you.
It's like I had a stroke. I feel like John Fetterman right now. I just shit myself and I can't speak. So we'll jump over to Steve, and so we'll talk about a movie, and then we'll round table the movie, and then we'll go on from there, and then the discussion gets live. Me and chat, please feel free to jump into this thing and let us know what you think about all this stuff too. Oh, pardon me, dear Lord, don't have a bottle of wine before the show, kids. So actually,
wow.
I need to bring up IMDb. Oh Lord. Help me get through the show. Steve, what movie are you going to be bringing up for your first film?
Well, like I said, like said before to you, like I'm not very good at doing my homework, so I sort of did it last minute. But
You bastard.
yeah, but that's me, right? That's what you're all used to.
I
By
know
now. But
that's
there,
really what I've come to expect from you, frankly.
yeah, but I've watched a lot of movies in my time, so it's not real that hard to come with some because there's so many great ones, right? So like,
There are. You're not wrong.
One that I don't know for whatever reason I watched a lot because it was not only sometimes like I sometimes have trouble watching war movies, especially when the good guys, aka us, are having problems because it's just so hard to watch sometimes. But I've watched Black Hawk Down like I don't know a million times. Whenever it was on
That is a
TV,
tough
I'd
one to
watch
get
it.
through. Not gonna lie.
And it's just one of those every time I watch it, whether it's a combination of the acting, the music, how all those how everything moves along and just the just all of it, and then of course of it sort of you use based on real event loosely, but obviously this was a real event, but everything in between, who knows, but I every time I watch it, every time it's on, I end up watching it because I just get pulled into it right away. And there's certain scenes in it that are just harder than others for me.
This was a great cast too, though. They had an incredible group of actors for this film.
Well, a lot of young actors too. That so this is an old enough one that you start looking at and you're like, oh wow, that guy was in it. No, wow, what I think it's oh man, why can't I freaking man, the one that Tom Hardy is in it. That's the one that jumped out at me the most. It was like Tom Hardy has this little bit part in it, and if you pay attention, it's like, oh hey, there's Tom Hardy right there, right? So there's a few of those in this movie too, but it's an all-star cast, and man, it's a banger. It's tough to get through sometimes, but it's just
it is. There are a lot of scenes that are just very, very hard, especially once you're in the mix and everything's gone so wrong. Thank you for the commercials.
Yeah, the sniper sniper scene gets me the most when they put the two snipers down to protect the chopper pilot. He's being overrun. The second chopper goes down, the second Black Hawk goes down, and the two snipers get put in to try and defend them until they can get there to rescue him. And obviously doesn't happen. But just it's a hard one because they pretty much know they know it, but they go in anyways, right? And it's just like man, that's tough, right? I don't know. That's not even, that word doesn't even put it in perspective. No. But tough is
you're 100% right. Okay, sorry, more like rando shots here. I'm going to pull this out for a sec. I just saw Zaxx was talking about, someone had brought up All Quiet in the chat, and I have not seen that. I've seen the original, of course, but I haven't seen the
new one is really good.
That's what I've heard.
So
I was stationed in England when that whole Black Hawk thing went down, and I was assigned. It was my second base, and it was a special ops unit that did search and rescue. So we were like, we didn't participate in that, but we were ancillary to it. So because the guys that those two guys that went down and the pararescuemen that crashed in the first one, he had ties to people at the base I was at, so people knew him personally. Wilkins was his name, Tech Sergeant Wilkins, and he wound up getting awarded for that and everything. But so it was like, I remember seeing it on TV, and we didn't know if we were going to go down there, what we were going to do. But yeah, that whole movie was kind of visceral because I remember kind of living in that time. You know what I mean? Like what was going on and hearing people talk about it and getting real time briefings on it and stuff. I mean, not at a high level or anything, but you know what I mean? Like people coming down and saying, hey, we need to get ready. We might need to go. So we got to get all the planes ready and stuff.
Well, that's gotta make it even and more real on a level, just because obviously you sort of live. I mean, you weren't there, but you were close. I mean, probably as close as you could be to there, it sounds like. So I would imagine
it's because the special operations community is very very small, so it's
That's
pretty
true.
tight. Like if you know somebody in special ops, then they know somebody that was there, and so yeah, it was. I mean, it's not hard for me to watch or anything, but I kind of feel a little more connected to it. And let me tell you, when they were dragging those bodies through the streets and on the news, how mad we were. That was unbelievable. But anyway, those guys were heroes for doing that. They requested to get dropped in there, and they knew that they were probably not going to come out of it. They did it anyway.
Yep.
Nobody made them go. They had to request twice.
It's pretty crazy to even think about that. This is not a war movie that is historically attached to the classic romance.
No, you're right.
Well,
this is
Vietnam
also outside
or Korea or World War
One.
This is a contemporary piece. These guys, it's almost a docudrama at that point. And I'm so proud that the film actually wound up being successful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those guys should be proud.
There's a scene where they got stuck in a building and some guys get wounded and the medic has to try to save that guy.
Oh,
and he winds up not making it. Yeah. They use that in training to show you like, hey, this is what it would be like, and this is what so it's not exactly like step-by-step training, but to give you an idea of what you might encounter if somebody gets wounded. They use that scene from this movie to talk about it, or at least they used to back in the early 2000s when it first came out.
And the Army Black Hawk is what the Navy adopted as the Seahawk, which was the helicopter that I worked on for most of my career. Similarities. And actually, Tom's tinkering, who's in the chat with us, he's an old Navy friend of mine, retired senior chief, who is also one of the. I think I've mentioned him before. He's your zombie survival friend because he's the guy who knows how to do everything.
There you go.
Because everybody needs their zombie survival buddy.
If Mags keeps going the way she's going, she's going to list all of the movies before we even have a chance.
I know.
Jinkies, Mags.
Stop it, Mags. God damn it. But thank you for being in the chat. We do appreciate it. This was like we've talked about, this was a rough one. And there are going to be a couple more like this, I suspect, in the chat or in the show tonight. Just the hard war movies, just because World War II, and it's going to sound a little goofy, I think, but it's an easier war to watch because we won. And you know who the good guys were and the bad guys were. I mean, there may have been like that much tiny bit of gray area at some points, but it was largely, I'm talking to you, Russia, but it was largely a black and white war as far as who the good guys were and the bad guys were. Patton was right, by the way.
Well, there's an idea we might want to think about. What is that
noise in my garage? Oh, Jesus. It doesn't matter. But, and then there was Korea, which got a little more murky. And then there's Vietnam, which got way fucking murky. And then there's like postmodern warfare, where you think you know something, and then what you turned out you thought you knew wasn't. So, and these are the wars we're talking about when these movies are a little harder to endure, because your set of goals, values, what you planned on doing, what you thought were doing, are not necessarily what was there. That's what makes it harder. That's just me.
It's all that New World Order stuff that happened, in the 90s after the first Gulf War. Mm-hmm. We had a whole bunch of shit happen. Yugoslavia.
We went George Bush to George Bush to George Bush. I mean, right? I mean, wasn't that like from 91 to 2001? It was just basically the Bush family.
So I'm going to go back to this movie for a second. If you'll remember, though, this single event was the one that let the bad guys in the Middle East at the time know that we could be hurt and what would happen. Mm-hmm. This was the one. This singular event the showcase as to, yeah, you can hurt these guys. And that's what gave them the idea to do what they did. So modern wars are icky, and they're not. I mean, and that's our time though. For certainly for those of us who did our bit, that was the time we served, was during this gray period of warfare. You know, like I said, where you think you're doing one thing, but are you doing the right thing? Fuck, who knows?
Yeah.
It's
we all joined when we went to boot camp. The Soviet Union was still there. It was still a Cold War. And while we're in, everything fucking just went to shit. The whole Soviet Union collapsed.
Yes, it did. That
Berlin Wall came down. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, there's not a big daddy over there keeping everybody from killing each other. Guess what, kids?
No, and
it's fucking game on.
Well, I mean, I'm going to throw out a political point, and this I'm going to try to limit these tonight because there's a lot of these that we can step into. Taking Saddam Hussein out of Iraq was one of the singular worst decisions that we as a country ever made. Mm-hmm. It destabilized the region and opened the door for Iran to come in, and then you had all the problems that followed that. You had Saddam. He was a dick. There's no denying that. But you can control him to at least a degree. And now it's just like, hey, party on, dudes. So anyway, it's fine.
I mean, it may look like a disaster on the face of it, but if they were trying to destabilize the region, then it was actually a stroke of genius.
What? You shut your mouth, Stephen. Why would they do such a thing? Awkward look into the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Blair de Blair, what movie do you want to talk about before the FBI agents show up at my house?
Right. I wanted to start with a nice World War II movie, 1949's Battleground.
Battleground. I'm gonna throw this out. I'm not even really.
Van Johnson is in there. Ricardo Montalban is a very young man.
Ricardo Montalban. Oh my God, Khan is in it.
Yep. James Whitmore.
There we are. I'll be goddamned.
Battleground. Now it's about the Battle of the Bulge, and back then,
black and white, old one.
Oh yeah, it's a good black and white movie. I think one of the best. So back in those days, you had two types of World War II movies. During the war and shortly after, like this, they were all rah, go America, we did good. Mm-hmm. And then toward the 60s and 70s, you started getting more, questionable, why did we have to kill people? Is killing good? War? What about war? More questionable things. So this is a nice, because my grandfather was in World War II, but he was in Okinawa. And I had a great uncle who was on Wake when they got captured by the Japanese, and he was in a POW camp forever.
Oh, Lord.
So,
did he
got
survive,
out.
Blair?
He did.
Did he have stories? Did he talk about them? I guess that's maybe a better question.
He didn't talk about them.
Okay.
But when he came home, even after putting on weight, he looked like a concentration camp victim. And he didn't want to talk about it. He said he had to forgive them, otherwise they would have eaten him alive.
Well, he's a better man than I would have been.
All of my relatives were in the Pacific, so nobody was in Europe. But I just really like this movie. It's got a lot of action. A lot of the tropes you see later.
So were there main characters that you followed?
Yeah,
I've never seen this film, so you have to forgive me. I don't know the answers to these questions.
You start off with, you have this company you focus on and their commanding officer, and you see them in the Battle of the Bulge. At first, just like what happened with everybody thought they were just going to roll on through Europe. Then all of a sudden this fog came, and then the Nazis came out of nowhere and just, looked like it was a bulge. You look on the map and there was like a bulge coming out of Europe, and we couldn't have our bombers because of the fog. So you had all these people stuck out there in Belgium, just holding what they could. And, eventually the weather broke. And when the Germans the weather broke because Patton prayed for it to. But the Germans, they blew their wad. That's all that shit they had was right there, and then it was over. And
I wanted to welcome Jim to the stream. How you doing, Jim the Viking? We've been invaded. We've been Vikinged.
Sweet mother of God.
The Vikings are here. I promise I will not plunder, pillage, or pilfer.
We appreciate that, Jim. Also, thank you for being here because it is the middle of the night over in the UK.
It's about 1:36 a.m. in the morning, so
Nice.
You're going to become Jim the Vampire soon. I don't know if Nosferatu's out there, but he's not going to be appreciative of the competition.
The Norse mythology do contain a little bit of night creatures. So.
Well, apparently you are one of them, my friend. Welcome to the show, Jim the Viking. I love shots like this. I know it's from the movie, but that looks like it could be a fucking World War II shot.
Yeah,
the previous one as well. These look really good. These look like, I mean, of course, these guys were there. A lot of these guys were there anyway. They knew what the look of the war was. It wasn't, you had to remember or recreate. You were there a couple of years ago. You knew how to do this stuff.
And this is right before Korea, so there's still this good feeling that we did something good, like you said. That we knew who the bad guys were.
Yeah,
we knew who the good
different kind
guys.
of war, man. Different kind of war.
It's a pet peeve of mine, and I understand these people are mainly actors, but it is the gun discipline that actors really lack most of the time. It's a finger on trigger. They don't point the rifle down to the ground when they're walking around and are not in a dangerous situation. And that comes from, I'm the odd man out here, because where I grew up in Sweden, we had mandatory draft. If you were a man, by the time you hit 18, you had to do minimum of 1 year to maybe 2.5 years if you were really good at it. So
Jim, do you have any pictures of you when you were doing your training?
Unfortunately not,
like
because
share?
I was mainly just freezing my nuts off.
Okay.
And there were no small
Roger
cameras
freezing
around.
your nuts off. That's Jim the Viking freezing his nuts off in the UK for you people.
You don't
Yes.
think with more modern movies, the muzzle awareness and stuff like that, and where there is getting a little better with some of them, especially with the old Alec Baldwin incident.
Funny that you mentioned that, because a film that I feel that is a guilty pleasure of mine is because I love naval warfare, because I love space games, which is exactly the same thing. So I actually like the Hasbro battleship film.
Yeah, guilty pleasure for sure. Yeah, I love that. I actually love that movie.
It has a
mother of God.
One of the Skarsgård guys in it. I think it's the son of the guy that's in the Thor films. That's the crazy scientist. But
No,
he has
3 sons. He has 3 sons.
He has 3 sons, but this one actually went through military service, real military service. And if you look at his gun discipline in the film, that's not acting. That's him having had it literally smacked at the back of his head by his sergeant or his instructors. This is how you handle, this is how you hold a gun, a rifle, whatever it is. And I had the same
look at these
training.
pictures. These pictures look like they could be out of World War II.
That definitely
they're
looks like
they're just very impressive. And now I need to see this film. Thank you, Blair, for giving me something else to do. Who's this girl that keeps showing up, Blair? Can you talk about her?
She plays a local, like a Belgium civilian. So, like even in Band of Brothers, like where they were taking the wounded back to the nearest town, she would be like one of the people in the town that was
okay.
Also, she like when they first get there, they back up, they barrack up at houses, and she's one of the people who's having the soldiers.
Whoa there, fella! You back off. This isn't that kind of movie.
Says you.
Yeah, he'd get me too today.
He would actually. I want one of those fucking hats because it's going to get cold out here in the winter. The Empire Studios get very chilly, and I could use a hat like that.
Man,
So,
last night it was 46 degrees in LA.
It's getting cold in old SoCal.
And I know that's not a number to complain about, but around these parts, you're just not prepared. You're just physically
we
not
don't do
prepared.
cold down here very well.
I keep
Okay, now
wondering
we're
where
into like final
where this
stages.
guy, Jago Day, whatever, in the suit. Where's he in the movie, Roman? Oh, sorry, that's the ad, right?
That's the
Like
ad.
every third picture's that
Hey
ad.
there.
It's like,
How are you?
it's like, whoa, that seems a little.
Yeah,
I am the producer. Would you like to come to my casting couch to see if you'd like to be in this movie, Delightful Belgian Girl?
You sound like you've done that before.
Last week it was Baby
What
Groot
happens in the
on
studio
everyone.
stays in the studio, Steve.
Right.
Don't you worry about it.
Hey, I'm just looking out for you. You got to be careful. As long as they don't
right,
know what
Steven.
happened, right?
The only one that's out here is Kermit the Frog. He's still got his vampire teeth in, and no one's sticking anything in that. So, Steven.
Me. That would be I.
You placed yourself in the role. You're in the thing. Frost and
I just wanted to make sure I stayed down on the bottom so that the chat isn't covering up an illustrious member of the panel.
No, true.
My first one up is let me grab it. My first one up. I don't know if you would necessarily call it a war film, but Jacob's Ladder.
Oh fuck! I love Jacob's Ladder.
That counts. That counts.
I would imagine it does.
Yeah.
If Die Hard's a Christmas movie, then Jacob's Ladder is a Vietnam film.
Is that
1990?
Oh, Jacob's Ladder, Vietnam. I thought that was a Robin Williams film, but that might be the guy that hides the radio in one of the concentration camps.
It's Good Morning Vietnam, probably, maybe.
That's Jacob the Liar.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Wow.
This movie
This
was
is when you know we've made too many titles.
Fucking weird.
This has
But,
got Tim
man.
Robbins in it.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim Robbins doesn't suck. And Tim Robbins as an actor is really good. And I'm gonna step on you a little bit with this. Tim Robbins as a person is a giant fucking twat.
Douchebag. Yep.
Great actor, twat person. But whatever. So Steven, go ahead. What about this amazing movie? And it was, did you dig?
Well, remember we were all talking about the early 90s, right? That we were all pretty much either in the service or serving at the time of in the early 90s. The idea that this movie came out and wasn't a Deer Hunter or Platoon or some other kind of Hollywood-esque war movie, this was about the inner turmoil of a guy that lost his life spontaneously on the battlefield. I mean,
man, Danny
spoiler
Aiello,
alert.
look at the people who are in this fucking movie, man.
And Danny Aiello as the chiropractor, he has some insanely good philosophical lines in this movie. That one bit where he goes into the discussion of everything appears as if there were demons if you're reluctant, but if you're willing to allow your body to transfer into another dimension, then they all appear as angels. And that whole bit with Aiello is amazing.
This is an incredibly disturbing film visually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's meant to do that, of course. It's meant to make you uncomfortable. And there's that fucking guy in the suit again. And it does.
The cool part about this movie is that Jacob, the character in the film, is actually fully aware of all of these concepts. He used to teach these subjects. So the idea that there's this bizarre landscape of philosophical and theological ideas kind of walking through his nightmare of a film, it's because he's been well read on these subjects. So of course he's going to have a fountain of information intervening.
Yeah, because in the movie, didn't they call him Professor? His platoon mates that was his nickname, was Professor. I think.
Yeah. And they go into the whole, this is one of the first films that actually starts talking about some of the chemical warfare that they were doing in Vietnam. And hello, Dragon Ruse.
Yeah. The other thing about this film is it was one of the first films I saw where they see this hallway scene here with the it's one of the first films I saw where they did the thing where the guy moves his head around real quick and then they run the camera back and it's all shaky and he looks weird. And then you see it again, like in X-Files, like every other season, they have like at least one guy doing something weird like that in it.
Yeah, they developed a lot of hellscape tropes in this movie.
Yeah. Which I liked. It was creepy, but good.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the ending where you finally figure out.
Oh, I know. Yeah. So, spoiler alert for if you haven't seen Jacob's Ladder,
I haven't seen it.
Seen Jacob's Ladder because it's a post-war movie about Vietnam that is nothing like you think it's going to be.
Yep.
It wasn't
very young Macaulay Culkin is in this before he did Home Alone.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's one of his first roles, really.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There he is.
Little fucker is.
There he is. Yep.
He's really little in this movie. It's kind of crazy how tiny he is.
But
if somebody could have gone back there and told him what was about to happen to him, he would have ran to the hills.
Really,
don't let your parents screw you over. Yeah,
that's the guy from Costanza or whatever. From
that is Costanza, right?
Yeah,
he's got more hair.
Yeah, how bizarre is that he plays this kind of shifty lawyer in this movie?
He does that in every movie, but he's good at it.
Yeah,
I was going to say that's the second shifty lawyer he's played.
Pretty Woman too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was not good. That was not good, Costanza. Me too, Costanza.
Page
and he's
Master.
like, yeah.
Wow.
I cashed the check already. Don't worry about it. What was that, Jacob?
Sorry, I got distracted by the half-naked lady that Rome put up there.
Fuck, Steve, you can't just get distracted by every half-naked lady that's going to be on the show.
Unfortunately, that actress passed away a long
Did
time
she?
ago.
No
Yeah,
way.
she passed away. Yeah.
Oh my God,
What is he reading here, Stephen? Can you see the book?
He's reading Slaughterhouse 5.
Oh fuck, Vonnegut.
Which is also a World War II movie that takes place in God knows how many different dimensions. I mean, there's multiple timelines that the main character is going through.
Boys and Girls is also an author, and there is a Slaughterhouse 5 film. I don't know that it's actually worth viewing, but the novel is something that you should read.
And Daniel just joined us. Hey, Daniel. It's an excellent book,
Daniel?
Invader Zim.
Really?
Yeah, good stuff.
So Zim is a big reader, so I appreciate Zim's insight on these things. Daniel, you're in the chat. Good to see you, brother. Yeah, this was a weird fucking movie.
Good pick,
and that pretty much sums it up right there.
Yeah, what was astonishing to me, and I know Dragon Wall, you're always talking about a shield wall. You're always talking about how my knowledge and my insights on things. I had been reading a lot of the material that this film covers, and it does not miss a single step. All of the moments in this film are totally parallel to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. What is a soul doing in process of finally leaving the mortal coil? I mean, it's all there, and it's all well done, well executed.
Yeah, it was an interesting movie, and it's like an M. Night Shyamalan movie before M. Night Shyamalan, so and better executed in my opinion. But it's definitely the new thing in Hollywood is we're gonna subvert your expectations. Except this movie does that, and it doesn't suck.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, they want to subvert you, but they don't know how anymore. It's sort of a lost art, right? They try too hard.
All they got to do is just gender, race swap, change the costume, change the story, cut out the lore, ignore the canon, and there you go.
Make everybody gay.
Yep. And
oh boy,
Yeah, the thing is that they're not trying. They don't know what they're doing. and they're not really subverting expectations.
No.
The subverting expectations, there should be some subtlety to it. I mean, it's kind of built into the mechanics of subverting. And if you're not keeping us speculating while we're watching these things, then you're not doing the job right. I mean, it's so heavy-handed. Everything is so heavy-handed.
When you already know the twist before in the first, before the film starts, it's like, it's like, okay, you're not subverting much, and then it's not even good.
You know what this movie also does for me, and I know what the movie's about, but it also kind of looks at PTSD. I think to a degree,
absolutely.
It doesn't talk about that. I mean, it is. I mean, that's the journey, but it really does hit a lot of those wickets. I mean, if any of you are out there who know what I'm talking about, I mean, it is a peculiar, horrible beast for people who have been in situations which can cause you that kind of trauma, where it isn't, you're not where you are, you're out of that stuff. And I mean, you don't really have a lot of movies that looked at it from, I mean, this is a weird perspective, but I think it's a good one. The Deer Hunter did as well. I mean, I know if anyone's going to talk about the Deer Hunter later, I don't want to step on that, but the Deer Hunter is also a good movie about that. In more horrible terms, it's hard to if it's more horrible or just different terms than this movie, because this movie is bizarre. Deer Hunter is a lot more grounded, obviously. I think has everybody seen that is in the panel? Or
I have. Yeah, I have. Anything with De Niro in it.
Of course you haven't, Steve. Of course you haven't.
What's that supposed to mean?
It's like you do this shit just to undermine me. It's like, no, I haven't seen it. I'm Steve. I don't need to watch your movies. I'm better.
Well, Prophet of the Dragon is just doing his best blue collar guy imitation.
Wait a second. Just because I didn't watch Deer Hunter doesn't mean I didn't watch most of the. I mean, come on. If I want to do something to piss you off, if you know, okay, you want to bring the attacks on, let's do it right now.
I love Steve. He's my internet nemesis, but I love him, so I have to attack him when I get the chance. So, but
yeah, you know what it is, Prophet? This is all about John being absent for several weeks on end, and Roman is getting into this awkward place where he's like, "God, am I going to have to start dating again?"
Well, I think me and Roman decided months ago that we were going to decide to hate each other to try
it was a pretty easy decision. It was
I
good for both of us.
Already,
we talked to our therapist and said it was, and the therapist agreed it was the right decision.
No, I don't know, dear. I don't know. There's always a few of these movies that slip through the cracks. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
Like there's.
You're right.
You'd be shocked at the amount of probably movies that people consider classics. I probably haven't had a chance to see, but of course I've seen Battleship, right? So.
Moving on to the next film, because fuck Prophet of the Dragon. So, Shieldwall.
Is it my turn? I'd like to talk about Battleship.
No, it is not your turn. It is not your turn. Shieldwall. What is Prophet? What is the movie that you would like to talk about?
Let's talk about that anchor turn in that movie.
Oh yeah.
I'm just kidding. So I have a pretty extensive list that kind of goes all over the place. So I have a couple honorable mentions that I'd like to talk about. 12 O'Clock High. That is a movie that it was 1949. It's about strategic bomber command from England. And the Air Force uses that as a training movie in a lot of ways. It's on a recommended watch list for people in the Air Force to watch, because it teaches you history, but also about operations. Also, Dr. Strangelove. The movie's kind of weird, right?
Wait, you can't jump to Dr. Strangelove like that to me. I'll pull out of the video stuff then.
Okay, well, but these are
movies.
These are what I like about Dr. Strangelove is the B-52 scenes where they're doing all the crew communication in there, and it's using real live that's how it really was. I mean, Slim Pickens riding it down like a Bronco, fucking Bronco, the nuke.
That seemed
spoiler.
very realistic to me.
Yeah. But
Yeah!
the interior of the ship and of the plane and how they did everything is spot on.
Yeah,
But
that's one of the cool parts about that movie is that it stays so grounded in its dialogue that makes all of the dark humor work really well.
Right.
One of my
Yes.
favorite things that always makes me laugh out loud is James Earl Jones flipping that switch, going to hear Darth Vader stumbling over language is fantastic.
It's great that he's in that. But I like movies that have that kind of like technicality to it where they're communicating. And so that's another couple of movies that are on my list that kind of fall into that category where you see that kind of
Shieldwall, before you go on, I'd like to ask about your precious bodily fluids.
Okay.
No one else gets this joke. Never mind.
I got the joke.
Go on.
Oh yeah.
Talking about creamy donuts. What
No,
happened?
he's talking about from the movie Doctor Strangelove. The guy, the wing commander, he was a little nuts.
He was a little nuts. He was just he's a little nuts.
But so like I said, I like that technical part of it because if you've ever worked on a B-52, they're still flying probably those same ones.
Oh, they
nowadays.
probably are.
Yeah. And so you can go in there and you've updated a lot of things, but a lot of things they haven't. So kind of brings back, some memories for me crawling around in there. Not that I ever really worked on them like assignment, but I've been up in there crawling around and stuff on different ones. So yeah, but 12 o'clock high was, it's about bomber missions, and there were 10 people on each one of those planes. So you had all the gunners and the crew and everything.
Yeah.
So if one
it's a
went
heavy crew.
right, so if one went down, that was 10 people, and they would put up 100 planes, and maybe only 30 would come back on some of the bad missions. So, you're looking at hundreds of people dying every day, and you don't realize it though because they're not on the ground, they're not in the mud. They get to go back home, sleep, shower, eat, go to the movies, that kind of stuff. So I just find that kind of interesting.
Now that was a tough. Well, that's what Jacob of the Empire's grandfather did. He was a bomber pilot in World War II.
Wow.
Yeah. But he survived obviously because now I have Jacob of the Empire, who is never leaving the back room of the Empire, apparently, which is in occupied territory, which I need to invade. So please, I'm sorry.
No, but what was cool about that movie is, and so in the beginning, it shows one of the he was like the operations officer for the base, and he's at an old defunct bomber base in England, and they're still around. I was stationed there for 3 years in the early 90s, and you could go to those places. And as a matter of fact, I lived on one that, I mean, no airplanes flew out of there anymore, but the base housing was from that era. I mean, it was like late 1930s or whatever, where I was living in. And so it was England, especially that part of the country at that time, like people are still getting like milk delivered and stuff, and drive-throughs were a new thing, at McDonald's and whatever. So it was taking a step back in time, so you could there were strong connections to that movie for me because of that. But yeah, I like a big selection of different movies, but that one's sticks in my head because they show that to you when you're in training. Right. And so what it is it's what the lesson that the Air Force wants you to take from this movie is how you become in charge and you can get too close and care, air quotes, too much about your people, to where it'll make you less effective. Because if you follow the thread of the movie, he gets put in charge of a struggling bomber wing or bomber squadron. And he has to do all these things to get him to actually go into action and be effective. But throughout the movie, he puts them and sends them up with mission after mission after mission. And at the end of the movie, he's so connected to the people. He's like, I can't send my boys up one more time. I can't get them killed. And in a war, that's not what you really need.
Isn't that a dialogue in Band of Brothers or Pacific?
Yeah,
that one of the commanders has an issue with that. That dude, you're being too chummy with the ranks.
Right.
You can't do that. And he's like, but I love these guys, and it's like it doesn't matter if you love these guys.
They said it in I think it was Gods and Generals, the movie, with Robert E. Lee. He said, in order to be a good soldier, you got to love the army. To be a good general, you got to be willing to kill the thing you love. And that's just so. What it teaches you is, and I've seen it over and over again, where people get too attached to the people, and it's natural. It's going to happen. They're doing great things. You're out there making the mission happen. You're in the air quote trenches with people doing, working 17, 18, 20-hour days, whatever it takes to get the mission done. And you get to know these people like better than your own family, because you spend more time with them. And you're all suffering to different degrees. I don't want to say that working out on the flight line for 20 hours a day for 35 days with no days off is anywhere close to being one day in Ramadi or something. But the point is that you get those close relationships because you suffered collectively with people, and sometimes you have to make that call, especially in combat situations, to send up planes. And like I was just making that example, you send up 100 planes and only 30 are going to come back, and it's 10 people on a crew, and you don't know if half of them are going to die or not, but you still got to send them up there. And so the point of the movie is that he goes from the cycle of, I'm a tough guy, I'm going to make it happen, I'm not going to show emotion, I'm not going to break down, to he has that breakdown at the end and he gets replaced. Because that's human nature, and the sacrifices that you make while you're doing it, you pay for later on in life. That you don't even realize you're gonna have to pay, I think, later on, and that falls into PTSD and all that kind of stuff. But I just like it. It's a great movie. It's pretty technical. They even show some of the ground crew, there's some aircraft out there, for every hour it flies, it needs 6 or 8 hours of maintenance. And I've actually seen aircraft get they terminated using them because the maintenance time was too high. It was 12 hours of maintenance for every 1 hour flight. I mean, you're just at work all the time. Yeah. And it doesn't get any better. So, but anyway, that's my pick for that. I mean, I have 12, 13 things on this list. I can talk forever.
Yeah. Well, thank God
we all do.
We've almost made it through one pick each. Yeah. And we're only an hour or so into the program.
Yeah. So, well, I'll stop talking then.
I got to make a confession. I mean, I thought we were focusing on only Vietnam movies. I don't know why I got that in my head somehow. Maybe
I don't know either.
Because Veterans Day was mentioned before war films. I don't know. I got it in my head. I got distracted. So
I have a whole
now that I know it's all my war movies
list. So,
but that was a really good pick, Stephen. Though that I think that was a pick that a lot of people have never heard of.
Oh fuck yeah!
Haven't seen, and it's a great movie.
Oh my god, yeah, Zaxx. That's on my list. Oh, I'm sorry, Stephen. I think I blocked you out on that. I didn't mean to. The Outpost. The Outpost is on my list. That's one of the. There aren't a lot of good Afghanistan movies. The Outpost is definitely one of those movies, and that is on my list. And it's got a good cast. And I'll get to that when we get there. But yeah, that's a fucking amazing movie.
Mm-hmm. And Mags, I know. As soon as I understood
what
was actually going on,
I know. There are so many movies we can talk about, but we can't be here all night. And Mrs. of the Empire will divorce me. She's talked about this, so. We need to stay within at least the last couple centuries.
Well, John and I are actually working on plans, so to get you out.
To kill me?
No. Go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you.
Wait, we're killing Roman. Where do I sign up?
No.
Shut the fuck up,
To
Steve.
get him out of
Oh,
the house.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
We gotta keep our list
You
to the
said the
current
quiet part out loud.
to the current centuries because I got some movies on here that
No. You can sprint. No, you can do whatever you want to. I've kept mine to the last
100 or so years.
100 years or so. But
Okay.
you're not limited to that. That's what I did. But we could talk about, like I said, we could talk about all the wars, and that's a lot of wars. So
I'm chomping at the bits here because I have.
all right, Jim the Viking.
quite a
Jim the
few.
Viking, what is your choice?
Well, I have 3 ones, but I'll
Talk about
bring
your
the
first
lower
one, Jim.
ones out first.
Go for it, Jim.
Jim.
All right.
Jim the Viking.
I'll bring an honorable mention, which is, and I think a lot of people are gonna snicker when they hear when I say Top Gun. The original film, which is awesome. Like I said, I like the naval warfare, the aviation, space battle, stuff like that. But did you know that the original Top Gun film had almost 800 hours of footage recorded?
That's a lot of footage.
That is a lot of footage, yes, but it's just an honorable mention. But I'm just mentioning it briefly because holy crap, did the remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, fuck yeah, I love Maverick.
I really, really loved the remake of it. It was a little bit over the top, but I can forgive it. But the homage it is making to Star Wars, sorry if it's a spoiler for people, but the homage it's giving to Star Wars in the 1970s Star Wars. It's
fucking Zaxx.
Yeah, right.
Yep, 700 hours was beach volleyball. But Zaxx, you're not wrong. Beach volleyball.
Oh, that's fucking
the
hilarious.
Activity in the United States actually went up to 35,000% above the activity that it had before the film came out. 35,000% above what it was at that time. But this is just the honorable mention. Now, since it's Veterans Day we're talking about, it's a very crucial film that I think it's showing how, sadly, here in UK, I'm a paying member of the Royal British Legion support for veterans returning home and everything. Sadly, I don't have the time to attend all like meetings, AGMs, stuff like that. But I'm
because you're
paying
a working
membership.
man, Jim. You work like 80 hours a week, dude.
Yes. I'm figuring out how to sleep sometime in the future. But yeah, I'm supporting the Royal British Legion, which is supporting the veterans. They're returning home. They need the support, etc. And when I say yada yada, I don't mean it that lightly. I mean I'm supporting veterans. If you sign up for service and you went to do things that we're trying to solve or support or help stabilize regions, war zones, whatever, I'm in full support of that. And you should be supported when you come back home. And it may not be easy because you've seen some crazy things. But my pick, my real main pick, and this is probably going to surprise the entire US crowd. It's the film from 1993 called Gettysburg.
Oh, wow.
It has, and I will just pick a few actors. It has Tom Berenger, Martin Sheen, Stephen Lang. It even has William Morgan Shepherd. William Morgan Shepherd, and you see here, you even have Sam Elliott.
Fucking Sam Elliott.
But the film is actually centered on Jeff Daniels, who's so far down the cast list of famous actors that you wouldn't believe it. He's literally, you have to scroll to find the main character they're focusing on.
We're not watching that preview.
Yeah, I'm sorry that preview skipped out. But the film is one of the last films that actually used real extras, not CGI.
Not CGI?
They used real extras. They had 15,000 people.
Wow,
doing
that's
the
a
charge.
lot of people. That sounds like Ben-Hur.
Yeah, it is literally on the level of Ben-Hur, and they had so-called smart watches hidden under the uniform, and when the clock ticked, that where were you gonna fake that you died? But it's like Martin Sheen, Tom Berenger. It even has a James Bond actor, George Lazenby.
What is that?
Asleep? Or is that a dog snoring? I hear it.
Is that your dog snoring?
Hello? It's
Is
not
it
me.
Blair?
Is it Blair?
Blair?
Well, you can mute him, right? See if it's him.
We lost someone. That's what the fuck, guys?
Come on, falling asleep on the stream. That is
really?
my
Who'd
train.
we lose there?
You're stealing your act, Jim.
Sweet mother of God.
Falling asleep on the stream,
Really?
that is my
This
trademark.
is why I risk divorce every week for this show, so that we can fall asleep on the stream.
Well, I have an excuse. It's way past midnight here in the UK.
It's true. It's you're a vampire now, Jim, so it's fine. Speaking of which, has Nos shown up yet? I haven't seen Nos tonight.
But
No,
I will say this for anyone interested in looking up Gettysburg. These actors, you see Stephen Lang on that picture. You see Stephen Lang and Tom Berenger. They were selected because their facial features resembled the actual photographs from the Gettysburg battle of all the people that participated in that, where they had photographs. Obviously, everyone, including Martin Sheen, Jeff Daniels, the guys you see on the screen, they resemble very closely the people that were actually there. So they didn't get to choose their role. They were asked, would you like to participate? But you will have to have this role because you look so similar to the real historical person.
You mean it wasn't a woman who played who was in the Gettysburg battle who was actually as a general?
Well, I heard this there were some Zulu warriors that were working.
Didn't even
right?
exist. This film was shot in 1993, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I fucking love Sam Elliott.
But yes, Sam Elliott apparently looks like
Daniel. Yes, Daniel. They're very racist for picking people who actually looked like the people who were in the battle. What the fuck, Hollywood? And also, I also recommend pipe smoking to anybody who does not smoke a pipe because it is delightful. It's a nice Hobbit hobby. That's just me. Go on, Jim.
Not a Hobbit. But I would recommend it too, although smoking is bad for you. Disclaimer, YouTube, please don't cancel us. But cherry tobacco is fantastic.
Oh, that's my favorite.
In a
That's
pipe.
my favorite.
But
That's
yeah,
hysterical.
they literally used the live reenactment people in the south of United States. So yes, the actors were there, but most of the people you see around, you see the background there behind them. They're actually
who is that?
reenactors.
Jim, who is this actor? Oh God,
That's Martin
damn it!
Sheen.
Ads. Who is that?
That's Tom Berenger.
Tom Berenger.
Oh wow! Fuck off! Those are brilliant beards.
Yeah, I think we need to talk the Flaccid Phoenix boys into discussing how many sexy whiskers there are in this movie.
Yeah, this is incredible.
Oh, I agree.
This is heavy.
But I might be slightly biased because I'm a bearded Viking. But yeah,
True,
all that equipment you see in the background, even these guys that are picket fence, to like, hey, stop there. Who are you trying to enter this place? They are just reenactors.
Oh wow!
They're not actually actors.
Yeah, they had a lot. They had like a whole bunch of those reenactors there. They brought their own kits and gear, and they actually camped out there and did the whole thing.
Yeah. The film, I will say, you will need to bring a big cup of coffee because it's 4 hours and 20 minutes in total.
That's a long time. Oh my God, that's a commitment. But
it covers all the 3 days that the battle took place over. And it shows the cavalry charge from General Buford. It shows the misunderstanding that the Southerner, I don't know all the exact terms because I'm not that deep into it, but they thought they had the manpower or the numbers to run across a 1.5 mile open field charging a position. But I highly recommend watching that film because I think of it as Braveheart. I think of it as Braveheart.
Jim.
Wasn't it a miniseries at first?
No, it's actually a full film. 4 hours and 15, 20 minutes or something.
Okay.
Well, I think Barry Lyndon was pretty close to that as well. It was well over 2 hours for sure.
So interesting thing about the end of the Civil War, though, at Appomattox, when the South surrendered, the Northern troops who were there, the Union troops, were given very specific direction to treat their Southern brethren with respect because they were brothers. And it was supposed to come together again.
In the film, there are 2 people, they're brothers. Sorry for spoilers, but they know they're fighting against each other.
We know how the war ends, Jim.
They're trying to find each other on the battlefield. Just to say, I'm sorry, or forgive me, my brother.
That was a huge part of the conversation about the Civil War. Was it was quite literally brothers and cousins on the same battlefield on opposite sides.
Well, you have to think about the way the United States was at that time. It wasn't with these metropolises and spread out territories that we are now. It was basically all here, on the right coast of the country, and you had a very divided group for very specific but different reasons. Sometimes they didn't even make sense when you look at them as to why the North was badgering the South when they depended on the South for certain things. But neither here nor there, I suppose. It's the way it ended, I think, is the important thing, is that it did have to come back together. You had to recognize. Funny thing, I mean, even during the Revolutionary War, certain English generals were concerned about the treatment of the colonists because they expected that we were going to come back together. For them, they were going to win. And they didn't want us to be treated so poorly that we couldn't. So a lot of them didn't give a shit, but some of them did. Beyond the combat stuff, treat your enemies with respect, because I expect to trade with these people again. They are our brothers on the other side of the pond, so to speak.
Mhm.
So,
well, that's my experience from my training. I didn't do service; I did training. So I will emphasize that I only did the training, but definitely two different command styles or order styles, whatever you want to call it. Some people just want to get the problem fixed, and other that are in charge, they're actually looking toward the future.
the big
Don't
picture.
go in, nuke them, and just make them hate you.
Right.
Go in, try to fix it with as minimal damage to your reputation as possible. And I'll always lean toward the, hey, let's try to solve it if we can, but let's not piss off the people you need to convince to support you. I did mention a film, but I think I didn't cover it enough, which is Wag the Dog, which is the reason why I'm supporting it. Wait, the film isn't, but it has Dustin Hoffman, Robert De Niro, Woody Harrelson, Kirsten Dunst, Anne Hesh, Dennis Leary, tons of famous people. But it's a film that is showing how badly the veterans are being treated. You did your service for your country. You put your life on the line. But at the end of the day, the administration just have to put on a good face. And that's what the film is about. And they don't care who they sacrifice.
God damn it. I keep using the wrong keyboard. Why do you let me do that?
Because we're not in the garage, Roman. We're actually not there to stop
I
you.
need someone to actually help me out here. No, that. You know what, Jim? That's a good. Yeah, so to avoid a political misstep, they chose to start a war.
Yes.
And then funny thing is, reality mirrored art. When there was a certain scandal, and then there was a certain war to try to cover the scandal, and then it didn't work. But that was in actual reality. We were all there. We all know.
Yeah, wasn't that movie
we
Lincoln?
all know, and I think it's just such a. If I had not had the military training, not service training, I'm emphasizing that, I would not appreciate just how really morbid and sad this is for people that actually served, that actually went to the front line, disarmed IEDs, stormed into buildings with unknown hostiles, the whole thing. And
yeah, for
but
cover up.
But it is showing it in such a brutal nature, but from the PR perspective, because we need to look good.
Well, you know what, Jim, you bring a great point up with that. The PR perspective is everything now. And the biggest problem we have in warfare now is the PR perspective. I disagree with having embedded reporters. I think it's a terrible idea. I think the press in Vietnam is what caused the loss of that war.
Yeah, we've been seeing this increase of cameras as time moves on, and it's changing the dialogue.
Stephen, think about it. If there had been press, YouTube, think about it. If there had been press embedded with the troops in World War II, would you want to see everything they had to do to win that war? No.
How about World War One?
You would call them monsters. You would say they were demons for what they had to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's warfare, kids. It's stuff that regular people don't get. The things that have to happen to make people safe and feel secure in their homes is not something that regular people want to see, because you can't. That's not the way it works.
You cannot translate the order that you're giving. Get this done. And I will give an example from my training that I got. And I was split across all the regions, and this is specifically to the engineering corps. We were told there is a tank, a T-90, I think, T-90 Leopard, T-92 Leopard. Apologies if I don't remember the exact numbers. But it started up its engines 10 miles away, and we were told we need to assemble a bridge strong enough to let the tank come across this. It wasn't a big gap, but it was 10 meters across, and it would definitely have sunk the tank. The tank would not have been able to jump the distance. It would have been able to demolish trees and smaller rocks and boulders and everything. But this gap, we needed to assemble a bridge, and I think we had something like 75 or 45 minutes or everything. But it was literally hauling pieces together. We had everything we needed, but it was essentially the engineering corps. We need a bridge here. We need the tank to get across. We have 45, 75 minutes. Finish it, or the mission will fail. And this is where I learned how big an army really is in terms of support, not only supplies and everything. And I'm pretty certain that you guys are veterans. You had to do your service in the canteen. The amount of people, if the food isn't good, the people are not happy, and they will remember your face.
That I can tell you this, that if there was one thing that the military taught me and trained me for, if I ever needed to succeed in life after, is I could be a janitor, because I mopped and whacked so many floors.
Oh my God!
Professionally
so
did it. Yeah, it was. And what you're talking about, Jim, the Viking, is like, we call it KP duty or whatever. He's peeling potatoes and washing dishes and moving stuff, trays and all that. Yeah. I don't know. Did they make you cook? Is that what you're talking about?
They made me cook, made me serve and everything. But I do agree to your point. I've seen more lavatories than most men will ever do in their lifetime.
I still love the buffing machine for the waxing. You got the special pad.
The buffer. Yes.
You got buffing machines.
You got your thread to stand on it to get the good grip.
The key to a good floor wax is you got to have like 1960s era linoleum first off.
Yep.
The good stuff.
Yes, also true. Which is made of asbestos, by the way.
Yes. Then the second thing is you have to strip it first. That's that you got to put the stripper on there, strip it. Then you put the wax down. You got to let the coats dry. It takes time. You can't rush it. And
the stripping, I think, was worse than the waxing.
Oh yeah, because you had to get the little scrapers. You had to get down in with the scrapers. Yep.
Terrible.
But it looked like glass when you're done.
Am I gonna be the one to be silly enough to point out that the bastard sergeants that were in charge of your mess hall, your sleeping quarters and everything, even if you did it perfect, they found like a piece of hair or something, just something to always catch you out. Now, I've read the Heinlein books and everything, so I do understand why they did it, because you're not supposed to be perfect.
It's attention to detail. That's what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
Even if you're right, you're wrong. I have a mildly funny story. So when I was in A school, which is like your secondary training in the Navy, this was my second A school because my first one didn't quite work out for reasons that we shall leave undisclosed. So I was in Meridian, Mississippi, which is terrible on its own. And so there are four of us in this little room that has a common restroom area, and we have our lockers and such. And so three of us, and I don't know where the guy number 4 was, had waxed and cleaned the floor because we had the inspection coming through. And then guy number 4 walked through it like 10 o'clock at night on the wet wax. And so there are footprints, flop, flop, flop on the wax. So in the morning when the inspection comes, we're like, what have you done?
That's when you roll out the Daleks. You got to roll out the Daleks seconds after that. Exterminate! Exterminate these footprints! Exterminate!
Like seconds before the inspection to get his fucking footprints out of the wax. And we did because we're sailors. But it's like, you motherfucker. So.
Oh yeah, the sailor and the mop have a relationship that goes
sailors
way
cannot be trusted. That's what this story is really about.
Have you guys ever accidentally mixed bleach and ammonia trying to clean stuff and almost
because that will kill you.
Yes, that when I was in basic training, the flight below us, we had to evacuate because you're just all these new people. They're young, they're 17, 18. Some of them have never cleaned before, and they mixed it, and it makes chlorine gas. And,
it does.
And,
yes.
Yeah, and you can see it rising off of the floor.
Yes.
It's like a steam.
Yeah, it's like.
And these were the showers.
Get everyone out and clear the room.
They were using it in the open bay showers, so it was just like floor to ceiling tile. But yeah, you could. When you breathe in it, it burns.
Yeah,
you know you're breathing it.
We were doing our morning cleaning on my A school. We'd clean everything in the morning. There was like a special group of us that hunt back and clean the bathrooms before we'd go out and muster and then go to class.
Yep.
Somebody accidentally mixed the wrong mixture, and all of a sudden,
oh no!
Everybody's eyes started burning. It's like, oh my god, we're all going to be fucking gassed. Get out,
Well, interesting little historical point about that. That some of the gases that they were using, that they were deploying during World War I, were nothing more than that mixture.
Yeah.
Nice job, restroom cleaners. You nearly killed all of your comrades, making a very shiny shitter. That's fair enough.
Well, got rid of the bacteria.
I actually, when I went to school, and this was long before I even joined the optional service, the guy used, for the longest time, and I never understood why until I actually really asked him, because I understood we just somehow caught up that we were both Star Wars geeks, and this is in the 80s. But his curse word, or his go-to curse words, were piss, shit, and mustard gas.
Okay.
Mustard gas hasn't been used since World War One, but I was just so intrigued by his connection to that, because he was like, it's all the bad things in the world.
No, that's true.
I guess that would be a military version of death and taxes.
So
pretty much.
While we're talking about wars, I'm going to talk about veterans who served in the wars. So in World War II, it was like 1.6 million people were in World War II from our side. Vietnam, it was about 700,000. It's a lot of fucking people.
Well, I'll give the perspective. My dad was born in 1932. According, if you do a Google search, 1932, there were about 2 billion.
Oh, these are American troops only, Jim. Just so you know that. I don't want to confuse the numbers.
No. But globally, there were 2 billion people.
Oh,
the numbers you're presenting at that time is massive in terms of the entire population.
Yeah, World War II was just fucking insane. And then Iraq was still a big fucking number. It was like 679,000. That's Iraq, and I guess probably Afghanistan's actually a separate number. I have a separate number for Afghanistan. Where is my number for Afghanistan?
Well, while you're looking that up, I think this is.
Oh, here it is. Desert
Russian
Storm was 679,000. Operation Iraqi Freedom was 1.5 million. That's the second round, folks, by the way. And then there's Afghanistan, which had 700,000. 175,000.
And those are
people.
20-year wars, those last two.
And then there was Benghazi that had six people.
Yeah, I'm probably going to
I still count
butcher
Benghazi.
the quote, but it is, I think it's from someone Russian related or something. If you kill one man, it's a crime. If you kill 10 men, it's a tragedy. But if you kill 10 millions, it's just a statistic.
How terrible is that?
You know, you need to put on your Joker voice for that one.
Yeah, yeah, it should. Definitely.
Oh, you're right.
Definitely
You're not wrong. So let me. I haven't actually even gotten. I haven't gotten to mine yet. We're still on round one, guys. So we'll probably go 2 rounds. I don't expect we'll go longer than 2 rounds because that's gonna make Mrs. of the Empire divorce me, and I don't really feel like having that happen tonight. Patton.
It's all the hazard of being a YouTuber.
Nice.
Patton is one of the great war movies, with George C. Scott playing the title role and then Carl Malden playing the secondary role. This is one of the great war movies. You see World War II through the eyes of George Patton, and George Patton was a very flawed man. He was a great man, but a flawed man. And that's the way most of your great leaders are, by the way, in case anyone's ever curious about this. Mm-hmm. George Patton was a tactician to the letter. He knew what his enemies would do. But he had a problem with leadership. And he had a problem with people who didn't want to fight. And this was ultimately his demise. His disdain for leadership cost him the leadership of the entire war. He was supposed to be the Supreme Allied Commander, and he wasn't because he badmouthed the leadership in an interview. And he got there because before that, you had troops that didn't want to fight it was probably PTSD. And he called it cowardice. And he slapped a guy. And the slap cost him his Northern Command at the time.
Funny
thing about all this stuff.
I would say
Russian go ahead,
is
Jim.
not unique to just the military. It also applies to just like normal businesses. They operate the same way. Even though you fix the issue, which Patton was doing constantly, he had all the evidence. I mean, just look at the amounts of ribbons and banners and promotions and awards and stars and everything. He fixed the problems, but in order to fix the problems, he needed to tell the leadership to get the fuck out of my way. I need to fix this stuff.
He tried to do that. And to my British Armistice Day friends out there, cheers. But Monty was a giant pain in Patton's ass. And it was a political thing. That's all it was. Monty and Patton was a political war. And that's all it was. And it was something that shouldn't have happened. The Germans thought when Patton was sidelined because of his slap, they thought it was a ruse. And they were actually following George Patton to wherever he was going in the world to figure, that's where his move is going to be. He's going to do something there. Because they thought certainly the United States will not sideline their primary warfighter because of a mild misstep with a troop. It was insane. Funny thing is, this is not a bad predictor of the modern military.
Or modern politics, for that matter. I mean, the idea that Eisenhower was the one that stepped into the shoes he was supposed to fill has a real Biden kind of tone to it. Because I think Patton is quoted as saying that Eisenhower was an excellent clerk. I'm sure he'll be a great president.
I will have to step in here as the external one, and I'm saying it with the angle of military training, not service, and then I'm going, my commander-in-chief, what I'm seeing, obviously YouTube, social media, current day is emphasizing a lot more of it, but I would struggle if
is Gray
Biden
from
was in charge.
Ski House in here?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Gray, good evening, good morning, my little British brother in Japan. Good to see you, man.
We're there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Hail to everyone in the chat, but it was just an odd question with someone that isn't under that command rule, not even NATO rules. But whatever the president says goes. And sorry to say, what I'm seeing on the clips, and yes, I understand that I'm an outsider looking in. If you got told, sorry guys, you're getting back into service because you had the experience, would you go? I mean, yes, honor, freedom,
would
liberty.
I have to go?
Well, you pretty much hit it on the head there. Do I have to
go? So Jim, I'm going to throw a little, yes, forgive me in the chat. I'm going to talk about a little bit of new stuff. So the United States Navy, a couple of days ago, changed their rules for enlistment. What? You're asking? What did they do? They upped the enlistment age to the age of 41 to enlist in the Navy.
Wow. And that was almost a cutoff.
Most of the people enlisted at the age of 18 or 19 is when they came into the Navy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, come on. I'm still...
41.
I was born in the 70s, but I'm still... If because I have the training, I'm on record, I have 3 more years until I'm out of the clause. If Russia attacks Scandinavia, they can literally send agents to arrest me by force to join the defense troops. And
I'm not Jim the Viking is being conscripted and brought back in the service to fight Russia. You've heard it first on this show, friends. No, it's scary though to think of it as an older person who served in the military being brought back into the military. And I brought this up. I think it was on, was that on a Saturday show? It might have been when Gulf War I broke out and they brought the battleships back. They had to bring in World War II soldiers to show the men on the battleships how to operate the guns because they didn't. This is why we like the battleship film. Battleships are an incredible. They're almost as large as an aircraft carrier, except they're just a big boat with giant fucking guns on it. That's why battleships are cool. In case anybody's curious about it.
My reference was more to the film, but yes, I do agree that was it the Missouri that they literally for the film brought back out of retirement.
So
they used obviously VFX for it.
I want to talk about this scene in particular in Patton. This is when Patton walked out onto the battlefield. His driver kept telling him to turn because the battlefield was somewhere else. And Patton kept saying, no, I know where the battlefield is. Don't tell me where it is. And then they ended up at this field. And George told him this is where it was, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, there was a lot of
Carthaginians or whoever it was. And he believed in past life. He believed he was a warrior throughout his spiritual existence. And I don't disagree with him. But I love this scene so much because he's looking out on the field and seeing what had happened, pointing out the
It's a good
missteps
one, yeah.
that had happened back then. It was just incredible. This is in 1970 that George C. Scott is delivering these lines very believably as George Patton. And it makes you think. And that's something that a great movie always does. It takes you out of the war element and puts you somewhere else for a minute into the wheel of life, the wheel of time, for my buddy Steve. That it always comes around. And I love this scene just so much. And I'm not going to dwell too much because I know our time is we're already almost 2 hours in, and we're still not as far as we should be, but that's okay.
Well, let's
I told Mrs. of the Empire
Steve's,
this might be a long show tonight.
Let's profit from Steve's next pick.
Yeah, I don't have much time left myself either, so I was glad you said that. But I wasn't sure how far we're going back because, like, I was thinking about.
You can go anywhere you want to, Steve.
So I haven't even seen it in chat either, and I don't know how everybody feels about it. I know I enjoyed it when it came out, but what about the Patriot?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I fucking love that movie.
I love that movie.
I love that movie so much.
When I think it was when Heath Ledger was young too, or just trying to make his mark.
I love the inked teeth scenes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
it adds personality to the actors.
Oh yeah, it's another long movie, but I mean, there's all kinds of ups and downs and all kinds of nuance in it, and then just
so many good actors in this movie too, Steve.
Oh yeah, a ton. Yeah. So and not a bunch of huge names. I mean, obviously got Mel Gibson and Heath Ledger, but Heath Ledger wasn't big, huge at this time. So it was
Tom
basically
Wilkinson as Cornwallis.
Yeah. But
Jason
I mean,
Isaac.
Yeah, Jason
oh my
Isaac.
God.
Yeah,
he was such a dick. He was like the biggest dick ever.
Yeah, the creepy dragoon commander. Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, he was
evil
nuts.
fucker.
Yeah, evil fucker. Yeah, absolutely. So, no, I remember I haven't seen it in a long time. But
I watched it just a few weeks ago. I'm super familiar with it. Yes.
Yeah, because it was one of those I saw Braveheart pop up a few times. I'm like, you know what, Braveheart is.
I've watched that again as well.
Is an all timer, but this is one that doesn't. One of Mel Gibson's, especially, that doesn't seem to get as much praise, at least out in front, or recognition as
that's ridiculous.
As I think it should. I think it's a great movie. Yeah,
a great movie.
I'll give a personal event that did happen to me. So I booked myself onto a cruise called Star Trek Cruise, which went around the Caribbean. And I got stuck in the lift with Jason Isaacs.
What?
Yes, for just a couple of minutes. And I was just trying to keep casual chatter because he had actually been playing tennis on one of the recreational areas of the cruise ship with Michael Dorn, Worf from TNG.
Oh my God!
And the only thing I could think of, because I was thinking of Jason Isaacs from this, not from Harry Potter, from this. And I was just going like, shit, this guy is scary. But I was just trying to be as casual as I could. And I doubt he will ever remember me ever. But I was just going like, oh, what? Did you or Michael win? But I was probably stuttering because I was starstruck, awestruck, and then scared on top of it because the performance he does when he's playing a bad guy,
he
really shines as a bad guy.
He does, yeah, he really does.
So in my mind, I'm picturing Jim the Viking's conversation like, so did you beat Worf? And then Jason Isaacs going, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, Gallipoli.
Essentially thing, but Isaacs doesn't have an excuse because didn't he join one of the recent Star Trek series that I'm not watching?
Discovery.
Discovery.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't care.
He's such a
Season
good
two.
actor. God damn you, Jason Isaacs. Because he was so good as the Dragoon commander. He was terrifying as the Dragoon commander. He was the scariest part of the movie.
Brutal.
Mhm.
That reminds me, and
I loved his tactics though. I love the way he phrased them, because he's like, if you want to win this war, you're going to have to do things that you find, unpleasant.
Right.
Yes.
Just-
but that
just
reminds
delivery,
me
yeah.
of a horrific film that I saw when I was really young, but I had not been able to find since then. It's French orientated, but I think I'm just playing off my memory because
There
I
it
don't
is.
know what the film was exactly about. But there is an army coming in, just like Jason Isaacs here, and there are some farmers just rebelling, and you can see everything that is going wrong for the rebellious people. The trained professional army, they have the high ground. You can literally see them charging up a hill with we're talking muskets, like Civil War era stuff. But I have not been able to find that since.
Is it like a French Revolution movie or something? Like
It,
about
it
the French
might
Revolution?
be, it might be, but the only thing that's stuck in my mind is the peasants, so to speak, are charging up a hill and they just get absolutely demolished by
Oh,
the trained military. But it is not like, hey, yeah, we won. It's just like, no, we're trained, we know what we're doing. Sorry, you want to fight, your cause might be right or wrong, but you're attacking us, we got the high point, we will get you out of here.
the traitors. The traitors were terrible. Selling out their fellow countrymen, saying who they
Oh, yeah.
were. I hated that guy.
Yeah, there was all kinds of just the traitor, and then you got the burning.
And then he was sad.
scene.
He got upset when they burned them in the church.
The church, the
Oh,
church burning scene
what
came
did you
right
think
after.
was
that.
going to happen, asshole?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like that's because of you,
I hate-
dickhead. Well done.
I hated the church burning scene. I didn't mind that they burned down the plantation or whatever you want to call it, but the church scene, that's gruesome.
They gathered them all up in the ruse of peace, and then they burned them all to death.
Yeah,
No,
that's.
I know
war
they
crime,
didn't
and
do that, but they did piss off enough people in the South that the South really didn't care for the British after a while. Because the South was very loyal to Britain and didn't really want to have much to do with this.
Well, it was a very different culture, North and South. It was, even then, it was a very different culture.
I will ask this because this is mainly an American panel. Do you guys really know the meaning of the word, oh, say, do you see the Star-Spangled Banner?
Yes.
Do you know where that actually comes from?
Yeah.
I know this as a foreigner. Do
I
you
love
guys
that you
know?
know this.
Yes. I've at least heard
So
some
we've all heard
historical
the story.
earmarks.
We've all heard the story.
Yeah.
Stephen, go ahead.
It's my understanding that the guy who wrote the song, Francis Scott Key, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
he was marveling at the British marveling that they thought they had killed this flag. And these guys kept coming out of the woodwork and resurrecting it again. And the British were like, wait, I thought that place was done. I thought we were done with this battle. Nope, that flag keeps rising. And supposedly it happened a hell of a lot more than the song even projects. I don't remember the specific battle, though.
It was they were
1812 war.
Yeah,
Okay.
the War of 1812, or it was actually after that, and they were
Remember,
bombarding.
War of 1812, they actually burned down the White House.
Right. Well, that was in retaliation for the Americans burning down.
Yes, in Canada.
In Canada, they invaded Canada.
Remember, there's always two sides. To this
I'll have to jump in there quickly because you guys seem to be absolutely on the ball. But the people I know that are, shall we say, a little bit younger, they think the star bursting in the air is just fireworks. No, that's cannonballs trying to demolish the American flag.
It was actually, they were bombard rockets that were called Graves rockets that were in British invention, and they were used from ship to shore to fire. And so that's what they call them, bombs.
Think early missile.
Right, but they also had mortars, right? So you lit the thing, you put it in the mortar, and then you fired the mortar. So you had to get it out of there quick, or else it'd blow up. Because you lit a few, like the old like round bomb you see in the old like black and white movies, with the
Cartoons,
villain. Yeah, cartoon. That the reason that looks like that is because that's what hand grenades used to look like. But also, the bombard, you would put that in the thing, you'd light it. The tube, and then you would fire it like a regular cannon. It would shoot up in the air, and then it would blow up, and that would put shrapnel out. And you used it because you could do plunging fire to get over the fort walls and explode above it. If anybody remembers Last of the Mohicans, right? They had that fort.
Oh my God,
those guys were at. And they're digging those trenches. The French are digging the trenches. The reason they're digging the trenches is to get those mortars in range, so that once they can start bursting it overhead, you don't have any cover. And then as soon as they fire a couple shots, they surrender. Well, Francis Scott Key was on a ship, a British ship, and he was he's a lawyer. He was trying to get the release of his friend who was on one of the British prison ships. So they collected, a bunch of American revolutionaries up, put them on the ship, and he was trying to talk to him to get his friend released, and they kept him overnight. When the battle started, they said, "Hey, you're on the boat. You can't leave because you might tell somebody what we're doing." So he witnessed the bombardment, and the rockets' red glare are those Graves rockets, and bombs bursting in the air are the mortars going off in the air bursting. And so that's what. And then so he wrote it as a poem, and it wasn't till much later that it was made into a song, and the tune is a British drinking song that was famous at the time. So many things that Americans do, and British too,
It is definitely British,
are based off of drinking songs that we have repurposed.
Here Comes a Bride is based off a drinking song.
Shieldwall, Blair. We got to say goodbye to Prophet of the Dragon. Steve's
you gotta go.
Prophet, I'm sorry.
Sorry, man. Yeah,
No, it's all good. No, you're good. No, I didn't know we were going for 18 hours today, so I would have.
I apologize for that.
No. It's fine. I got the thing I'm doing later, so I got to get set up with because we're watching the peripheral live stuff. So, no, it's been cool, man.
I'm sorry. I would have.
No, I'm just teasing. Come
know,
on,
man.
Hate you.
That's why I'm a wing guy. That's why I'm a co-pilot.
Just nice meeting you.
Good to meet you too, man. No, learned a lot, honestly, to be quite honest, because I don't know a lot of what you guys have been talking about, so I've been sort of just sucking it in. No, I'm look, man, I'm I guess the only not enlisted man in the panel here, so some of this stuff is a lot of it is stuff I haven't heard before or didn't know about, and then a few movies I hadn't seen. I did, well, some of them I don't though. Like what Battlefield I haven't seen, so that's something I gotta see.
Well, same.
And then Jacob's Ladder I haven't seen, so like that was interesting.
It,
so there was a few that I was sort of surprised. I was like, wow, okay, we went right off the bat with a few that I've seen so many war movies. Like, oh, this is good. I'll know a bunch of these. Like, okay, cool. There's a few. There's so many good movies out there. It's like that's what we got to watch, right?
Well, because you're spanning eras as well. It's not just a war; it's the wars.
Oh yeah. Of course. So it just keeps coming back to all our new stuff seems to be crap. go back to the old stuff. There's
Yes.
always something you haven't seen out there, right? So that's what I keep doing. So but thanks. I got to get you on my channel for something at some point here. Whether it's just
Please. I'm always open, Steve.
I don't know. Well, I've had some more time here, so we'll just have a yelling match, an insult match, or something. That'll be fun.
You're still a cock goblin.
Yeah. So, but I'll get that worked out. But yeah, so me, Zaxx, and Nerpor are gonna be watching Peripheral at midnight, I think. So,
Cool.
so yeah, so thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, brother.
Take care.
Always a pleasure, Steve.
Good to talk to you again, guys.
Please
good to
check
meet you.
in on Prophet of the Dragon. He does have a very good channel, despite what I say about him. So please look at him at YouTube. Great Wheel of Time and that horrible Amazon Ring of Times.
How
Power.
dare
Ring of
you
fuck
say
off
the word
series.
great and Wheel of
But-
Time in the same sentence?
Agreed.
So we may have more to talk about if you know Wheel of Time, my friend, because holy crap.
I told you last night, 20 years ago, I read that fucking series.
But do you remember any of it? I know
Before
you're
you were
old and you
born,
have dementia.
I was there
Well,
reading Wheel of Time.
Yeah, but you're old and have dementia, so I don't know if you retained any of it.
I literally just peed myself about 2 minutes ago. It wasn't good.
Well, so did I. So you're good company. So, but we'll figure it out then. Dude, I'd love to talk Wheel of Time with you if you want to. So, anybody.
Right
so
on.
I'm always down to talk Wheel of Time. So
Yes.
So thanks, guys, and have a great rest of your stream. We'll talk soon.
Yes,
All right, brother.
indeed.
Take
Have a
care.
good one. Late. And here we are. One
Yep.
man down.
Oh, let's not.
So
do that.
if anyone wants to hop in, I've thrown it out in some chats. If you want to hop in and throw out your favorite war movies, let us know, please.
I was
Right.
just gonna say you should try, and I know you had the boomer issues earlier in the stream with the audio not working.
I know.
But you should have like
know.
a quick scene of the aircraft doing the missing man formation.
Is that when I'm out?
Yeah, it is essentially if someone drops off, you do the missing man formation. You do just like a 5-second clip of aircraft going and they do the missing man formation.
I need a diaper change. Zim, really? I do have to pee. She's not wrong. But
I think it's way too early, even by US time standards.
No,
It's 7 o'clock on the West Coast.
Like 75 times. So Blair de Blair, we're back to you for what do you want to talk about right now?
I'm gonna go for the newer one, 2020's Greyhound with Tom Hanks.
I don't know this movie.
Oh, that's a good
gotta
one. It's on my list.
You got to represent the Navy there, my friend. It was on Apple TV, and nobody has it, but it was able. You can actually rent it on Amazon.
Elizabeth Shue from
Yep, Adventures of Babysitting.
No, the other one. What else was she in?
Karate
Leaving
Kid.
Las Vegas.
Karate Kid.
So what's this movie about?
So this takes place early in World War II. What would happen is we would have convoys coming from America to England, and the U-boats were running rampant out in the middle of the Atlantic. So there was a certain point where air cover in the United States ended, and before air cover in Britain began, you were just out there, and you just did your best to keep your ships. You're in convoys. So you have 3 battleships, or I'm not sure they're not battleships. I think there's something else, cruisers, and a wolf pack appears.
Yeah, it's the entire convoy of ships.
Yeah, and they tear the hell out of them at night. They're running around them. They're trying to hunt them down. They're trying to have depth charges. And it's really nice because they actually show that guess what? You have a limited amount of shit on your ship to fire.
Yes, that's true.
Once you run out of stuff, you're fucked.
Yeah.
There isn't like infinite ammo out in the middle of the ocean.
Yes.
And they speak to that. Like, okay, we just shot off half our shit. We may want to keep that in mind.
I haven't seen this movie.
It's an excellent movie.
It's really good. And when I was talking about how I like the procedure where they're doing like the talking and everything, this is really good. The radio communication, the bridge commands,
Yes.
those kinds of things. It was really,
Yes.
I liked it.
You see him going from one
I
side
like
to
it from the
the other.
logistical part.
Yeah.
It is the fact that the stuff I did, SIGINT, it's you get your backpack, this is your role, this is the amount of stuff you have. We're sending you out into the middle of nowhere. If you don't have enough to survive, or if you don't ration, or if you don't conserve ammunition, food, water ration,
Good Lord.
water cleaning pills, carbon filters,
Wow, look at that.
all of that.
Oh, it gets crazy, especially at night too. And they're talking about so the submarines are shooting the torpedoes. They'll see them coming, and all of a sudden they'll like to start moving the boat, and they like to miss the boat by inches. But it's just so crazy how you can maneuver your ship when you're being shot at, and then returning fire and drop enough depth charges while you're trying to communicate with the other two ships you're in your battle group. Plus, whenever a ship would get hit, there'd have to be like a rescue ship come and try to save. And they talked about how the ship had like 2,000 people, and they got 6 people off because everybody else went down with the boat. And but you talk about, so in the bridge, the way they did the movie was he's constantly going from one side to the other side. It's not a very big ship.
Right.
So, he's constantly going outside looking. Yeah, here they are when they're leaving. I think that's when they're finally getting into the Britain area. But, you're constantly looking around, and people are trying to spot the torpedoes, and you got your guy on the sonar if he hears anything or not. It's just, the intensity, because there's like how many days they're out there they have to do this, that they're under the gun nonstop. I mean, I don't think this guy slept at all the entire voyage. They actually make a joke how they start out, he gets his slippers for some reason, and when he takes his shoes off, his feet are bloody because he's rubbed his feet raw on brand new shoes, or his slippers weren't good, or he got up some glass in his face when they were being shot at. But, you've got to just keep going. That's an excellent, excellent naval movie. And Das Boot, Jacob, you mentioned Das Boot. That's like one of the greatest sub movies ever. All those people under the water, they got to be super quiet, but yet they're got to attack,
I will challenge that with 2 other films. Hunt for Red October, which is an awesome one, but I will just give that to Sean Connery. But there is I think it was the musician John Bon Jovi.
I saw that movie.
Where they steal the Enigma.
Yes. Yeah, that was actually a really good one too.
It was like U-542 or something is what it was called.
Yeah.
It was the designation for the sub that they captured.
Yeah.
That had the machine on it.
These are good. But then again, we're talking about this era where they could actually create films, build the sense of like terror, drama.
U-571, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The suspense, one good bang against a hole and you're screwed. You're going to drown underwater. And you can't call for help or even run if you wanted to.
Well, A Hunt for Red October and Das Boot both have that really awesome stuff. And I would say Jürgen Prochnow is on par with Sean Connery in terms of a U-boat or a submarine captain.
Yeah, he really.
I will say that the greatest film I've ever seen in terms of submarines is Kelsey Grammer.
up Periscope.
Up Periscope.
Periscope down. Down Periscope.
Whatever.
It is the greatest war what we call it, like simulator or play scenario, whatever they call it. I just love that.
And there was a predecessor to that movie. I think it was called Operation Petticoat.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the one where they only get primer for the sub, so it winds up being pink.
Sweet mother of God, what are we discussing?
And it's funny because at that time, Russia was selling off their sub fleet like crazy because they needed money.
They were,
And-
and to a lot of people who we don't prefer.
Yeah, and on the American side, all these sub commanders were screwed because guess what? Your career path just took a shit because we don't need nuclear subs like that anymore, attack subs. So
Now, it's a big. What the fuck are we doing?
there's this
Big
one
what the
guy.
fuck?
He was doing a presentation to high-level naval people in the Pentagon, and the admiral literally told him, "I swear to God, if you say something about subs losing commands, I will jump across this table and tear the fucking thing out of the projector." Because he was literally sitting there watching his entire career path go down the drain and all his
Right.
friends losing jobs, and he didn't want to hear it anymore. So, but yeah, it was hilarious, the premise of that, where, okay, yeah, a nuke sub should be able to take out a diesel, but we better check to see, what would really happen.
Or what's that, Derpurl? I need to see Das Boot. No, the miniseries is incredible. I actually sent that to the Pop of the Empire as a gift over his birthday, so he could watch that. So these old World War II series are not irrelevant; they're very relevant
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
because it does capture what's going on now. It's a different light, but it does capture what is happening now. So, you do what you're going to do with it.
Well, the thing about all these movies is if they have the right thread, is the essence of leadership stays the same no matter how far back in time you go or how far in the as far as I know, how far in the future.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, ideally, the essence of leadership does, but
See,
sometimes
Zaxx-
it fails completely.
Well, yeah, but I think Shieldwall's major point in this is that regardless of how well it's executed, leadership is the hinge point. You're either a good leader and you succeed, or you're a
Yes.
bad leader and you fail.
But that's not always true. Sometimes bad leaders succeed in their own way.
agreed.
They do. Benghazi is bad leadership succeeding in its own way.
Well, people would always complain about supervisors and stuff, and my point to them was you learn from everybody, even bad supervisors, and what you learn from them is what
I agree.
not to do.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
So who are we on right now for our movie choice? Stephen, are we on you?
Well, we could go with me, or we could go with Jim. I'm more than happy to go last, so we could do Shieldwall as well. You're in command here, sir. I'm just running the bridge.
No, I
I'm on that 50.
literally don't remember who we are on. That's why I'm asking the question. I'm very old.
Enough of your excuses. Just pick someone.
Yeah. Well, Jim's.
I understand that
Yeah.
this panel is, shall we say, experienced in the terms of time, but
Oh,
Steven,
we have time.
I
tonight.
just did my presentation of my pick of a war films. I went through the Top
All right.
Gun, I went through the Wag
Oh,
the Dog, and then
you
I
did.
went
That's
to
true.
Gettysburg.
All right. All
Yeah.
right.
Jim
Steven,
was preparing to see if whether or not he was going to fall asleep during the stream. So he got all three in one go.
That's terrible and funny at the same time. So, Stephen, what do you got?
I've got probably
weird
my
shit you got.
favorite, one of my favorite classic movies of all time, and that's Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, that is my son's
That is a
favorite
good one.
movie.
And I don't know what was really
Very
up with this
nice.
guy behind the scenes. I mean, he was working for the Bureau. He was making maps. He was a chain man, right? You know, he would do map measuring and painting. So who was this guy that he suddenly fell into this role? It's kind of funny.
No, this is a great role. This is an incredible movie. My son actually went to go see this on the big screen. They offered it up down here, and he decided he wanted to go see it on, the mega screen, not the bullshit we have to see in our living room. It's an incredible feature, though.
There are some sequences in here that
is fucking amazing.
I've seen some film students that are just gaping at the screen. They're like, how did they achieve some of these shots? I mean, what, did they do this in one take? The whole army goes across the desert and there's no footprints before they get there. It's like, how did they film this? Hundreds of guys in military kit and on horseback and on camelback. It's crazy. But this guy, like Patton, and I was going to bring it up during your Patton bit, Roman.
Yes.
But this guy actually predates Patton, and he was just as obsessed with history.
He is.
And he thought he was a legendary figure, a living legendary figure.
He did, but he lived through things that he should have never lived through.
Yeah, survived anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, D.H. Lawrence just walked through these events in his life where there was no point where he shouldn't have survived, but he did. This is a true story.
The bizarre part about that is that he was dead before he even reached 40.
And he died
a car crash.
Death. He died a stupid death.
Patton died in a car crash too, right?
He died in a motorcycle accident. He was riding a motorcycle.
It was a stupid death.
I guess.
It was an unfortunate death.
That moment right there, one of my favorite moments in the whole thing. The way he tested himself with the match, fantastic.
Oh, my son does that, and it bothers me. He does that with his friends to show off. It's not that it doesn't hurt. It's just that you have to ignore it.
Exactly.
My son is an ass. He loves this movie so much, though. And one of my favorite quotes is actually from this movie. No man needs nothing.
Yeah. All those conversational points about the British and how Europeans love desolate places. And they love to go to these desolate places and kick everybody out. It's like, there's nothing in the desert. What do you need all this stuff for? But I think my all-time favorite line in the film is when the Arab, God, what's his name? I got to go back to let me go back to the thing and find his name, cast, there it is. And it's Anthony Quinn. Anthony Quinn says to his thing, and he goes, I slave, I go, and I solve all these problems, but I am poor because I am a river to my people. And tears well up in my eyes almost every time he says that. That scene right there. Fantastic. What a macho character.
There is nothing in the desert, and no man needs nothing.
God, I can almost hear that line. And Lawrence is all like, oh my God, there's tens of thousands of men that just got to their feet because he spoke.
Yeah, and Lawrence understood something that the British didn't.
Mm-hmm.
He did.
Yeah, and go on, detail it out.
That you could raise a people because they believed in themselves. That's why the Arabs followed Lawrence. It wasn't that they believed in Lawrence, it's that they believed in themselves because Lawrence let them believe in themselves.
Yeah, they believed.
He was really good at
Lawrence
just articulating it.
Yeah, they believed in Lawrence believing in them. Lawrence gave them all the encouragement we need.
Yes.
It's odd. The character is quite literally a living white knight. You want to talk about like the politics of what's going on in this movie and what actually happened historically?
No, he's just really good at speaking the words that they want to hear, that they understand, that actually drives them to do what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Lawrence did. That's it. I mean, it's not anything more complicated than that.
Has your son read the book that the movie is based on, Seven Pillars?
I don't know the answer to that. My son is a complicated character in modern history.
It's
He
an
could have
excellent.
probably won the next election for us, but he chose to bow out. So it's okay.
You know what? One of the biggest modern complaints about that movie is, right? Why?
What, Alec Guinness?
No. That why it gets attacked is because it has no speaking roles for women.
It does actually. The women are singing the men off to war. So I beg to differ.
But you know what I mean. There's
Yeah,
no
no,
lines
I
of
know
dialogue
exactly what
for
you mean.
anybody or anything like that. So
That's when if you look at the era of that era, the era of that era. It says itself. Were these things there? Were these speaking roles available for women then, or were they going to get their heads cut off?
I'm sure that there were in real life women that had some type of contribution, but it wasn't important to the story,
right?
That was being told. So
No.
That's the sharper point in all of this is that yes, there probably were speaking roles for women in these time periods, but they're not part of this story.
Right. And back then they didn't have to make up somebody to fill in. You know what I mean? So
I'm going to bring it up as a reality in this movie, and certainly I read the book as well that the movie is based on, which is a much more extensively detailed
I'm sure
plot.
it is.
It's written by him too, so it's it's firsthand
is
accounting.
It written by D.H. Lawrence?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
fuck.
He makes no bones about who those two boys were and how there were dozens of others just like them in the camp. I mean, those boys washed his clothes, they slept on either side of him, and took care of some business along the way. It was part of the Arabian military. So you want to talk about representation?
My God.
Well, it's true. I mean, it's a reality.
I can't argue it. Invader Zim. I have a new book to read now.
It's a great book. Gets into all of the equipment and everything too.
I want to speak to Invader Zim for a moment. So Invader Zim was with me on my 2007 cruise. This was when we were in the Arabian Gulf and doing all the bits. And Zim was just one of the integral members of my crew, and she was always very dependable and just such a good person. It's hard to find a member of the crew that she'll say a bad thing about Invader Zim, because Invader Zim was that person. She's just rock solid, their job, and was just very good at it. So Veterans Day, Invader Zim. So thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing. People don't understand. If you watch enough of Japanese culture, this is kind of talking outside of the point that you were just making and speaking more to some of these comments in the chat. This notion that why didn't they hire ethnic people to play these roles? And the truth of the matter is that in the time period this film was made, those people were not going to Hollywood to get these roles. They thought it was not a noble thing to do. It was not a noble pursuit of a man's time or a woman's time for that matter. And Japan still has a lot of coverage on this material. It's not really spoken about a lot in Western media, but these people did not see it as a good idea to be portrayed on screen playing somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to get Anthony Quinn.
So they had to get Anthony Quinn. That's not terrible under that.
And Alec Guinness too, playing his portrayal of the prince is amazing.
And that's the thing that needs to be taken away from this, is that those weren't caricature portrayals. They weren't made into buffoons or incompetence. They were, I think they were played with respect, in the fact that we as not knowing anything about the culture necessarily, we can watch their portrayal and respect the characters. We're not like, oh, this is supposed to be a joke, or they're supposed to be, looked down upon or diminished or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hear you, Anthony Quinn was a Mexican who changed his name to present as white, playing an Arab. It's a cultural appropriation nightmare. It's so true, and so many of them are like that.
So many things in that statement. Oh, yes. I'm going to get to that one.
Yeah, we haven't said the big ones. We're kind of like,
we're the Vietnam era. We can go briefly on these though. So we're
Shieldwall.
Okay, what do you got, bud?
Okay, so everyone's talking about Ermey and everything. Just to put a pin in that, that movie came out the year before I went to basic training. So all of the drill instructors were hyped on that.
I hated that so much.
And they were like, man, I wish I could do that to you, guys, and all this kind of stuff. You're lucky it's not like back then or whatever. And so it was pretty good. But okay, so on mine, I kind of went back a little bit. I like Master and Commander: Far Side of the World.
Oh my god,
that is an outstanding movie. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
The way it was shot, just the way that life is on the ship, I like it. It's a good movie. It's
an excellent representation.
Yeah, and if you watch a lot of history type YouTube channels, everybody praises it. No one's like, "Oh, this movie's dumb. It doesn't make any sense," or "It's not."
Yeah, I had heard that they bent over backwards to get that right.
Yeah, and I didn't live there or anything in that time, but it looked right to me, and it's a good story.
No, as far as the relationships between the crew members.
Yep.
Good Lord.
And it has everything. It's got superstition. It's got the leader needing to make a sacrifice, like when that dude is overboard and the rigging is in the water acting like an anchor. It's going to sink the ship, and you got to cut that guy loose. And sometimes you have to deal with that in the military
and all that stuff.
And I don't mean like literally cutting a person loose that went overboard, but sometimes
it actually kind of was then, though.
Well, but I'm talking about in like parallels to real life. Sometimes you have a person that's a good person, but they're a bad airman. You know what I mean? They're not like cut out for the service. So you have to, you got to let them go. And sometimes that can be tough, especially if, they didn't do anything wrong. They just kind of not cut out for it, So
I'm not gonna lie. I would have rather been in the British service during the time of this movie than I was in my own time in the service.
Really? You want rum rations?
Oh
and
my
floggings?
god! It was so pirates though.
Oh yeah. Everything was pirates.
It was just full on balls fucking service.
That when the Squid Guy came out from that one is when the Davy Jones thing. That's when that whole franchise lost me. The first movie was cool. The rest.
Yeah, I agree. They should never have gone that supernatural without having a really solid consultant on the job. It just got too cartoonish.
But this is good. Paul Bettany is great in it.
Oh my God, Paul Bettany is fantastic.
Yeah. And it goes to the era of discovery. And like the one thing that he says is when they show him the model of the American ship, which it's just based on a book, and it was a French ship, or it was an American ship in the book, but they made it a French one so that American audience wouldn't get pissed or whatever. But when they show him that model, that the people say, "Hey, we saw it getting built, right in the harbor or whatever," he's like, what a fascinating and modern time we live in. So you think about how even back then people were like, we're living on the cutting edge,
Yeah.
Got that carbon paper, baby.
It's funny, actually. There's a line sort of like that in Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr., where he's talking about the London Bridge being built. And he starts describing the actual feat of engineering that is the London Bridge. And of course, it's probably historically inaccurate. It's probably totally misplaced in the scope of history. But it's true. Every single age thinks that they're right on the brink of solving all the world's problems.
Well,
How are we doing with that?
As far as thinking about cutting edge technology, well, they are on the cutting edge in every age because that's the best technology they got at the time.
Right.
Speaking of the London Bridge, that's technically the Tower Bridge. And when I was a kid, I wanted to live in it. I always saw like the build, I didn't realize it just had machinery in it and stuff. I thought like you could live in it. So I was always like, I want to live in there.
Yeah. Well, I think at one point in time, people were living on the bridge proper, but that's another story.
Oh, yeah. You're talking like way back. Yeah.
Yeah. Before they remodeled it and made it a cantilever bridge.
Yeah.
Like, it was a whole thing about the leverage of it.
Dempsey makes he mentions Toy Soldiers from 1991. And then you guys remember a movie called Taps? It was one of
oh my god, Taps was so good.
It was one of Cruise's first movies. That was excellent.
That had
it's military related
too, right?
Yes. It was a military school.
That one bit that Tom Cruise does where he's firing that M60 out the window and he's like, "It's beautiful, man. It's freaking beautiful."
No, he's crazy as fuck.
Yeah, I love it.
And then they get some mortar round and it kills him. Him and Timothy Hutton's character.
My favorite military school movie is Major Payne.
Dear God.
One tubby.
Oh, I love
doing the push-ups.
The Sharp series of movies that Sean Bean was in.
Oh, those are
my God. Those are
beautiful.
some of my we're watching those now.
And he doesn't die at the end of each episode either.
I know. It's amazing. He did all those and lived.
You need PJ maybe for these Sharp.
Wait, PJ's not in here, is he?
No, he isn't. He's probably asleep because it's quite late.
Because what's the naval one? Horatio Hornblower.
Yes,
those are the other.
Horatio Hornblower is one of the best series that has ever been produced by anybody.
I love that one,
and the books are really good too.
Yeah,
that is like, well, remember Horatio? Who did Gene Roddenberry base Jim Kirk on? Horatio.
Well, I know for a fact that Star Trek II, the motion picture, was hardly based. It was very strongly based on the Hornblower universe. They're like, we need to make this naval battles. We need to have these ships driving against each other, cannons firing across space. I mean, when the writer discovered that, he altered the course of Star Trek forever with that one. Because Star Trek was never supposed to be military.
When you say the Star Trek 2 film, that is the one with Khan.
Yep, Wrath of Khan, exactly.
Yeah, Ricardo Montalban.
So
who was the OG character too? Yeah,
he's great. Yeah.
But for Horatio Hornblower, if you have not witnessed Horatio Hornblower, the BBC series is extraordinary.
Yeah,
it is so good. It's it's this thick. But
did A&E do some too?
No, it's the same. It's BBC in coordination with AMI.
Yeah, that's back before they had BBC America and all that.
So I have the DVD thing in my room across the way, and we watch it. My son wants to join the Navy because of this, and I'm like, no, son, it's not like this anymore.
No,
but it is such a brilliant fucking. It tells you who's who, and it tells you what a good commander is, and that's probably the most important thing about it is command and leadership. And you learn what works and what doesn't. And Horatio Hornblower is one of those guys who gets this immediately. Same with Jim Kirk. You understand your crew, and then your crew will do what you need them to do. But it's a very basic thing, but apparently that's not very important anymore.
Well, there's something that happens in these storylines. At least all the adventure movies that all the adventure books that I read from the late 1800s was that there was these moments where excellence was displaced and recognized by the crew. Like whoever was being excellent was not trying to be excellent. The narrative was actually describing the witnessing of his excellence.
That was not the case during
during
Hornblower necessarily, though. It was a fictional characterization of a brilliant hero during the. A lot of it was the Britain and French wars.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it, in fact, but most of it is about leadership, though. I mean, if you watch Horatio Hornblower, it's about leadership. So. And that's not something that you can put in like a place. Leadership is about leadership, whether you're in an office or you're in a military environment.
Right.
Leadership is leadership. So
yes,
it does transcend those things. Whether you want to listen to me or not, that's fine, and I get that. So
no, you're absolutely right. It's that transcendence that makes it. I mean, I was kind of touching on the poetic side of what I had noticed. You actually experienced leadership in the field.
I'm not very
a lot
poetic,
more than I have.
No, I've experienced leadership on very shitty sides of it.
Yes, well, displacement.
I didn't have a lot in my office when I, right towards the end there. But I had like my certificates of whatever that I was trained on, so people came in, they could see that. I didn't have a love me wall with all the like awards and crap, but I had a poster up. You know how they had those motivational posters is like, everyone works together, whatever. This one was an old painting of a person on a raft that was sinking. And the quote said, "Perhaps the only purpose of your life is to be a warning to others what not to do."
Wow. That's incredibly bad.
That sounds like a perfect military motivational poster.
Mm-hmm. That is definitely the Viking style to do things.
It was it was I just liked it when I saw it, and I was like, all right, I gotta get this, because it looked like one of those motivational posters. If you didn't pay close attention, you'd think it was the one with all the eagles and all the other stuff on there,
but it was not.
No.
It's funny how many moments I experienced while in basic training, even where those events would happen. Everybody would be standing around going, "I am so glad I'm not that guy." So you get this displacement of what not to do because the example is being harshly treated. Like Private Pyle in Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, D'Onofrio is amazing in that film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that guy. It's amazing how much of Kingpin you can actually see in his performance in that film. He's been a powerhouse for so long now. That actor.
Yeah, D'Onofrio is really humble.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's really humble about his stardom, but he also pours everything into it. What was one of the latest? It was the Daredevil or whatever, when he was playing the Kingpin.
Yeah, the Netflix Daredevil.
Yeah, it was a bit rubbish. It wasn't that bad.
I actually liked him as that Daredevil. I did.
You're not talking about the Hawkeye show, are you? He was
mad. No, that was garbage.
What they did to my
Daredevil,
boy.
he was fucking great.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
You actually felt that he was a threat, but for anyone that had seen Full Metal Jacket, you would just go and it's like, he's the loon that will not cut it. But you do feel sympathy because he's not cut out for it, but it's the only option he has in life. He has to join the military, and
he he was drafted. That was the thing, is that he
Yeah.
didn't belong there because he was drafted. And what should have happened is they should have recognized he was incapable of doing it and just got him out of there.
Right. You are talking about Full Metal Jacket.
I am talking about Gomer Pyle in there. But even, yeah, you're right, Jim. Even people that try to join because they think that it'll be good for, because you have, I mean, before you went to basic training, did you have any concept of how bad it was going to suck? I didn't.
No,
I did.
I certainly didn't, and I grew up north of the Arctic Circle, and I went for the. I didn't wait for the draft to happen to me. I actually signed up voluntarily. And holy crap, they did drag me to some really cold places north of the Arctic Circle. I was like, this is freezing.
It's fucking
And
horrible.
I grew up there, so I was just going, it's like, I'm t-shirt and shorts, and there's like 6 feet of snow outside. But the military literally dragged me to places where I was fully dressed with proper equipment and everything. And I was just going, it's like, I'm fucking freezing.
That's one thing the military is really good at. If a place sucks, they'll find it and send you there.
Oh,
yes, they will.
Oh yeah, the sergeants always knows the worst spots ever.
Plenty of options available.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's quite amazing that I mean, I had heard it. I had heard about it. I've seen scenarios about it in movies and everything like that. But the reality is, it doesn't matter how tough the guys were in my original platoon in basic training. Every single one of them at some point in time went to the bathroom and cried their eyes out with the door closed. I mean, it's just a reality.
Fuck them and their fucking eyes. That's what I'm gonna say. Fuck them, their fucking eyes.
Really, you had people crying?
In the
In
bathroom, of course. You know,
like a lot of people.
One at a time. Somebody
That's
would
not
always
good.
be.
So we got Nosferatu, the fucking vampire, with us right now.
Maybe I don't remember it. I think we had some stuff like that. But also, we had females like literally right next door to us. There was just a door between us.
Whoa. What?
So in the way that the dorms were made, the training facility, is they were on levels, and it looked like from the air, it looked like a big H, right? The building. And so each leg of that H, not the middle part, that was where the dining facility and main office was. Each wing had, it was 4 stories high, and each floor had 2 bays separated by a door in the middle. Because, you know, they were old. So in like Vietnam, they would open that door up and just that whole bay would be used for training. And you had all the racks and everything. Well,
oh my God.
So we had just that one door between us, and but you could hear the crying over there a lot. So, but it's just how it is.
Nos.
So
I bet you cried.
But I'll be humble, and I will admit that I was sent out on a mission, and it was about 60 hours long. It was literally go to this point, go to that point, go to this point. Think of it like orienteering. It's like the sergeant has gone out and they posted like an orange flag on the tree in the middle of the forest in nowhere. And we gone through mosquitoes, the horrible things and everything, no sleep whatsoever. Just run and get it fixed as much as possible. And I quit 5 minutes before the finishing line because I just didn't have the energy left in my body to climb down literally a ladder. It was that easy. All I had to do was climb down the ladder.
Oh my God.
I was just so exhausted. I could not do it. But the course wasn't to fail you to kick you out. It was a course meant to show you, we want to break you and show you this is where your limit is. And I was in the top like 10% of the people that were remaining, but I don't know why, but I just couldn't climb down that ladder. It was a really weird thing. It's like, but my body and my brain was just saying, nope, I'm out here, can't do it, I'm done. I've completed all the other tasks. I just don't have anything else to give.
Yeah, and that was basic training or like more advanced training, Jim?
More advanced training. So, like I said, we were building bridges for a tank coming across, and then running like half a marathon through cross terrain. So not like pavement and everything like what you see on TV these days. It's literally like moss woods, roots and everything, like breaking your feet and everything. Lots of people dropped out because of injuries because they stepped wrong on like roots and stones or whatever.
And and you said there were a lot of mosquitoes up there?
Yes, we're talking north of the Arctic Circle.
Oh, I saw a thing on that where it like drives the reindeer insane from the amount of mosquitoes that are biting them. Yeah.
Yeah, I would highly recommend. The best protection I've ever found against mosquitoes, especially if you've not grown up in the area, because they like the exotic blood. It's a raincoat, a full-on raincoat. So we're talking wellies, trousers, coat, jacket, hoodie, gloves. But you will even see if you stand still for about 5 minutes, you will, if the raincoat is blue, in 5 minutes it will look like it's a brown coat because there is so many mosquitoes on you.
Yeah. Do you remember how many people didn't make it out of boot camp because they couldn't hack it? They went crazy, or they tried to escape, or some dumb thing like that.
Blair, I knew a guy whose shins failed him anatomically because he just, I don't know what it was, genetics or something like that, but he got like epic shin splints and had to drop out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had guys get flat feet, and that's one time I did see a guy cry, is they put him out and he really wanted to be in for the benefits for his family.
Yep.
Yeah, and because he was like, my parents are poor and my brother's living in a car and all this, so a lot of people don't realize that the military gives you so many good benefits, and it's a guaranteed paycheck. You can't get fired, like you can't get laid off.
You can get fired.
Well, but there's a process. It's not just they walk in one day and there's a pink slip in your locker and they tell you to get out.
There's a bit of tenure attached to them.
They can't Elon Musk you like at Twitter. but
drugs were a big problem for ours because our in boot camp you had your like little leader, your RPOC, and then you had your assistant RPOC.
Yeah, our RPOC.
Our assistant RPOC got kicked out for PCP.
Wow.
Or some shit.
Yeah, I mean, if you mess up and you do drugs or you do something criminal or whatever, yeah, but they just can't randomly come in and be like, okay, you're pack your stuff, you're out. Now in training you can, but then they got a process. There's due process is what I mean, and so it's a good deal for some people. If you're living in your car and they take you, well, you got a place to live, 3 hots and a cot.
Hey, did any of you guys ever see a movie called The Last Castle with Robert Redford?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrifying.
It's a Philip K. Dick.
No.
Not the High Castle. This is a prison.
Oh, the man in the High Castle, Lost Castle.
Right.
Oh, that's the Rome Robert Redford.
Yeah, Robert Redford. It's a military prison.
James Gandolfini plays the warden.
Yeah, James Gandolfini is the bad guy.
And guess who plays the drug dealer who used to be a helicopter pilot? The guy who plays the Hulk, of course, Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, really? He was in that?
Yeah.
I just remember from like 13 going on 30.
Yeah, he was doing a bunch of roles long before.
Yes, I have seen that movie, everybody.
Me too.
I just shared a link in the private chat, Robin. I think I've shared it with you before, but it's from the group called Sabaton.
Fuck. You know I love them. That's not fair.
The members are absolutely history fanatics. And they write the songs and they base the songs around what happened in history.
Yeah.
Night Invader.
Look at that crowd, by the way.
When I was in corpsman school, we would go to the naval training side is where all the boot camp people went if they were sick or injured, or the hospital. And we met some boot recruits that snapped, and they found them wandering around outside the fence on the railroad tracks, half naked, and they don't remember how they got there because they had some type of psychotic episode or something.
Right. It had nothing to do with flying saucers or anything like that.
No, it was just they cracked.
Just teasing.
There'd be a certain number that just, surprise. It's not for you.
Because that's the thing about especially a draft military, but even an all volunteer, is it's just a big slice of normal society. So you're going to get people with really good, smart people, and you're going to get people that shouldn't really be there. But the only way you find out they're not supposed to be there is to put them through the process.
Yeah, there was a guy in my boot that he had never used a toothbrush. This guy was 20 years old, never used a toothbrush in his whole life. Very religious.
I will give you even a worse story than that, Stephen. 2 days ago,
God damn it.
I saw a lady in at least later 20s here UK that did not understand how to operate one of our Royal Mail red post boxes.
What, like open up and
literally
put an envelope
walking around in circles around it, and it's like, where do I put my letter in?
Good grief.
Yeah. Well, of course, my favorite was when you join the Navy and you can't swim. So, joke's on you.
That's hysterical.
You jump off the high dive and you tread the water and they sink to the bottom.
I guess that's kind of like joining the U.S. military or the U.S. infantry.
Hey, Jim the Viking.
You don't like.
Are the rest of you hearing Viking music right now?
No.
Yeah, that's all I can hear pumps through my fucking ear horns right now because I can't figure out how to make it stop.
You probably clicked my link and then listening to Sabaton or something.
Damn it! That's like literally all I'm hearing right now. It's just like pumping Viking music, and I can't make it stop.
I'm almost as old as you are, and you can't. If I'm not the boomer, you can't claim to be a boomer.
It's all Viking music.
Yeah, but there people just sink to the bottom, Dempsey. They've never been in a body of water before.
Yeah,
They go to swim classes.
I can't even shut it off. It's just like fuck.
If there's you'd be surprised what people. You'd be like,
God damn it.
You have expectations about what a normal person should be able to do.
Didn't shut it off.
There's always somebody that won't be able to do it.
Nope, still there.
Routinely ran into people that had never used a mop or a broom before.
Oh,
I agree completely. I was fortunate enough that my dad managed to get a good deal. So I was literally living on the third largest lake property front in Sweden. So I had close access to water, so I could swim by the time I was 4 years old and everything. And the school was just like 3 kilometers inland from where I was. And nobody by the age of 10 of my classmates knew how to swim.
That's because the water's too cold.
It's not too cold. It's just the fact that they never got exposed to it. I was just going, it's like, what's wrong? Yes, I had easier access to it, but what's your excuse? You're still less than a mile away from a massive body of water. Why do you not know how to swim?
It's too much of a hassle, dude. Why are you pressuring me? Lay off, man. Back off, man.
Now,
Who cares if I can't
if you're
swim?
in the Arizona desert or Nevada or whatever it is, literally landlocked, there is nothing within hundreds of miles. I can understand you not knowing how to swim.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
How
if
many
you
people
live
don't know
less
how to-
than a mile from a big body of water, you should know how to swim.
you know what's crazy is I live in New Mexico, and there's I'm hundreds of miles away from the water, but people have boats all over the place here because there's like little lakes and stuff. It's insane. It's like, why do you have an $80,000 boat in your yard, dude?
Yeah, I know. I remember when I
yeah.
came down to Georgia, right? All the lakes around Atlanta, Georgia, is the same damn way. It's like, what the heck you doing with that thing in your backyard, man? What are you, nuts? The lake is like half the size of your boat. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you got to drive like 6 hours to get there.
Yeah.
You got to tow it around. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
It's
yeah.
just that's the thing.
I
That's the
imagine
thing.
that in Sweden, like a lot of people just own boats because they're right by the water. At least I would think so.
Yeah, I think there is no place in Sweden where you would be probably the maximum distance you would be able to in Sweden to be away from water or big enough to sail around or have a motorboat or a fancy yacht or something is not even 30 miles. And that's the entire of Sweden. And people don't understand this because they think Sweden is like, oh, a tiny country. No, Sweden is a country in terms of a vertical size. It's twice the size of United Kingdom.
Yeah, it's pretty big, and especially the way that, like, if you look at it on maps, it gets distorted. Yeah, but it's I wouldn't want to have to walk it.
Yeah.
We even have smaller treks because I do like hiking and everything. I have camping gear and all that stuff. The lake I was mentioning that I was up next to, if you want to walk around it, it's something like 370 miles. If you want to walk just one lap around that lake.
We lost our leader. Oh no.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what we should do about it. I mean, we eventually have to start wrapping this up. We're entering a 4th hour.
Yeah, we're going. Yeah, it's getting kind of late here. I need to wrap up too.
Well, let's start off with this. Blair, give us the lowdown. What's going on in your life? You know, how you feeling? You dating anybody?
I'm married. I got kids. I'm feeling pretty good, you know. Doing streams with Vincent on Fridays and you guys on Thursdays. So it's been fun.
Yeah, we saw your boot camp pictures. I'm not surprised that you're married.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been hanging out with the Flaccid Boys way too much, but I gotta say, you know, you look good in that sailor's hat. I don't know what to say about it. It's just a friggin' reality.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
As you should. Oh my God, Nosferatu! Stop talking about anatomical parts in my chat. Use the words like donut and cream.
Gross. So I guess Roman just had a total meltdown. Nice job, Jim. You sabotaged him good.
I have no idea what was going on. At this point, I can't tell if it's an act that he's angry or if he's genuinely angry. I just can't tell anymore. It's such a great bit.
Hey guys, I gave you a promise. I came here as a friendly Viking. I would not plunder, pillage, or pilfer anything. And I so far haven't done anything. Everything is Roman's fault at the moment. I might be nudging something on, but well,
No,
a gentleman doesn't tell.
Was that a link to music, or was that your? I was like, oh wait, that was my mind control link. My bad.
right. You sent him the Ring video.
Yeah, yeah.
But in terms of mind control, you might want to look up what the Viking barbarians or berserkers, to be more specific, were up to before battles. It was definitely mind-altering stuff.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. I've been giggling at the chat, but the panel is just as funny. So, Jim, what are you up to these days? What's going on with you? Anything to sell? I mean, I'm working with you on Saturday. You're running the ship.
Yeah, so I'm co-captain to PJ Maybe on his channel. We're doing the Let's Talk Geeky on the Saturday, and we're covering everything or anything that we just picked up, anything new, anything old. The Saturdays, we're keeping like free spirit. So you can talk about anything or everything that you picked up. It could be a film from like 50 years ago or a film that you picked up last week. On the Wednesdays, it's always 8 p.m. UK time, by the way. The Wednesdays are usually more structured. We try to focus on one film, but we always go, oh, hey, squirrel. And we run off in a completely different direction.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly.
Yeah, we do try to stay focused on them. And if PJ isn't around, I usually have to take the wheel and try to steer it. But yeah, Wednesdays and Saturdays, 8 p.m. UK time, we do it at PJ Maybe's channel.
Cool. And Shieldwall, what do you got going on?
I got nothing going on. I don't have a channel or anything. I'm just happy to be here. Honored that you guys would even have me on here to talk about this stuff. I mean, I'm good at talking. I can talk forever, but but yeah, it's fun coming on here, talking with you guys, going to Steven's film school. Lots of reading and stuff, good book reviews and things like that. And also interacting with the chat. The chat's great. So
yeah,
it's like being here.
This is a fun thing. So Blair, if you need to cut out, we can end the stream right now. No problem. I got a trigger right in front of me. I could end the stream right now if we want to. No problem at all.
I've got to go, guys. Yeah, it's been a great show. I've really enjoyed talking about the war movies and just, military stuff in general with you guys. So
yeah, and it's great having you on. Blair de Blair. I mean, I'm sure everybody already knows this, but you're a regular panel member now. That's it. We're gonna have you every Thursday.
I know. This is my first one.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for having me. I gotta bounce, guys. It's been great. Have a good night, everybody. Goodbye, Chet. Take care, guys.
Night. So, gentlemen, the chat is awesome.
The chat is always awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And this one has been really, really active. I've been struggling to keep up with what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been on top of it. And I think we just got some sex bots. Thank you, Nosferatu, for mentioning, anatomical parts. We always get the sex bots when Nosferatu's here.
It's old because on the PG Maybe channel, we're just talking random sci-fi stuff, and suddenly the sex bot just drop in, and we just goes like, "How did they find us?"
Well,
yeah,
there's some weird stuff going on. I think every time you access YouTube into a YouTube stream, it somehow that triggers it. But this conversation across international boundaries, I think, is another thing that may cue these things. I don't know. I mean, I've always tried to speculate on it because it's a fun hobby, but I can't figure it out.
Bots?
Well, I can't figure it out.
Yeah, what brings them?
Because most of us guys are geeks. We like our sci-fi, our fantasy books, TV shows, and everything. It's just not like we're talking about the, shall we say, the websites where you can access the optional.
Well, if we were talking about that, Jim, we wouldn't have any problems.
I think that it's a government intelligence test to see if anybody is dumb enough to click on the link.
Well, I've heard other modders like Eric K, who's modding over at Dick's Division and usually does Friday Night Tights.
Yeah, I've met him. Yeah,
he tells me that a lot of times it has to do with the number of emojis going on in the chats. I've been warned a couple of times that the more emojis you do, the more likely it's gonna bring it somehow. I don't know how that works.
So what you're saying is all these donuts in the chat, or I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm getting excited. You know, every time Mags shows me her chocolate donut, I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I like chocolate donuts. I shouldn't have them, but I do like them. I would hope that there isn't like a conspiracy stuff going on behind that.
No, I wouldn't go that far. But,
yeah, but I'm hoping not.
But I think I do think that there is a mechanism in place. I mean, this is all mechanical, right? We're to agree that there isn't actually a ghost in the machine. So therefore, it must be something actually going on. There must be something triggering it. Because I saw one night, and Nosferatu was there. We were on Zaxx channel. I wasn't on the panel, but they were just playing these 20, 30-year-old trailers and getting bumped off the show. The show got stopped 3 times in a row. It was bonkers.
Oh, you're just for like, I mean, it was still copyrighted material though, right? Even though it was old?
They were stopping it every 10 or 15 seconds. And I speculated that it may very well have been just because of the time period that the conversation was happening in. There was a lot of hot takes going on in the press. So they just dialed everything up to 11. And that's why it kept on failing.
Right.
You know, because when you get super sensitive.
Yeah. Kept hitting the keywords or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a message from Roman. He says, I'm working on it. Well, I'm pretty sure, Roman, we're going to be off the air by the time you get your butt back up here. So no worries.
Would he have a power outage or something?
Yeah, I think it was a power outage between his ears, a short between the headphones. I think they call that.
I would describe it, and again, this is IT expert acronym. It's called PICNIC. It's called problem in chair, not in computer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
no offense, Roman, but
well, we know the military
it is usually you missed the button click, you forgot to do something, and heck, I panic when I co-captain or drive the show on PJ's channel because I am not that comfortable with StreamYard.
Oh,
hey, Roman's back again.
What's
this
up,
right
Roman?
here is why I don't have a channel, because I couldn't even figure out how to turn it on.
No, everything went so wrong, and now I'm like glowing like some kind of phosphorescent creature. God damn everything.
Wait, when you say phosphorescent, you look like Creature from the Lagoon.
I'm
wait, that's just your normal face.
It's not good. I'm actually gonna remove myself out. I'm gonna go.
You're gonna go?
Damn. So I've missed everything for like the last 40 minutes because my channel went crazy and it dumped me out.
This one right here, I think, Roman. And I think Nosferatu makes another comment similar to that, where he's basically saying, I am so glad somebody else in the stream is as drunk as I am.
Well, thank you, Nos. I appreciate that. Fuck. Yeah. I have no idea what went wrong on there. It was like big wrong. It was like, I couldn't figure out how to get back in.
There have been, I know Windows continuously goes through updates, but on the Apple side of the universe, we just had a major OS change. And I'm sure everybody's scrambling to make sure everything's working in conjunction. You think about the number of devices, the different types of software we're all using. Meanwhile, all of this is colliding through StreamYards.
Oh my God, yes.
You know, I'm still amazed that this all works as well as it does at all.
I'll give that as the IT kids from the 1980s. I understand most of the underlying technology and everything and what it needs to work. But I'm looking at, say, friends of mine that have kids that are about 8 to 10 years old now. And they just pick up a tablet and click a button and it works. But they don't understand what it is required for it to work.
Yeah.
And that's why most of the incidents or issues I deal with is people just, they haven't clocked. You actually need to connect to your Wi-Fi to get the good stream. You need to connect to your network to get the good stream. You actually need to be online to get your online messages. And there he went again, Roman.
Yep.
But, it is essentially this thing. What we're using today is far more complicated than you would think it is. I mean, try to describe this. Imagine if you travel back, say to the time where Jesus was walking across Jerusalem or whatever.
Oh, my, yeah. You didn't need to roll the clock back that far back. You could just roll it back to the middle of World War II, where Alan Turing is working on the first computer.
Well, you could roll it back to when Ada was developing the first programming languages, probably 100 years before World War II.
Just the heat alone, the metallurgy involved, the number of particles flying around in a system trying to be organized. It's absurd to even think about. And that was just electronics in the 40s and 50s. I mean, the UNIVAC was an insane piece of hardware.
I mean, it's less than 100 years ago. If you do the Google, the vacuum cleaner was a big horse and carriage drawn machine with a steam engine.
Yep.
And massive hose and pipes and everything. And they hold it out hold it in through your windows to hoover your apartment or your flat.
Yeah, it's roughly equivalent to what the spray carpet cleaning guys. They still have a system in place that's much like that.
Are you talking about like Stanley Steamer?
Yeah.
That
there's a whole truck and a crew, and they go through your window, and they have to. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But back in the day, I agree with you, Jim. It's most people, and that's why I love historical perspective. That's why we talk about these old geeky things, the way we bring up all these old movies. There's no way to see the future without having a foundation in the perspective of the past. It's just impossible.
Yeah. And I think probably the panel and the chat, Gene Roddenberry was awesome in bringing that into a future setting. He managed to create a world that understood old technology, but still make it interesting and new, and also innovative. Medical tricorders, they're actually a reality today.
Oh, yeah.
They're less trusted, and we're not really there yet. But all of those magic stuff, you literally just put a clamp across your finger or fingertip, and you get your blood oxygen, your blood level, your heart rates, your everything, with a single thing that you just put on top one of your fingers. That wasn't even possible about 15 years ago.
Yeah, dude, I go to donate plasma twice a week, and every time I go there, each one of the people screening us before we can go back and, donate, they run our blood through a centrifuge. And this centrifuge is no bigger than a blender, like a regular kitchen counter blender. And I'm like, you roll the clock back to like the mid 60s, that thing was the size of a cotton candy machine.
Yeah. I'm talking about the 60s. I'm young enough to not have been part of it, but one of my mentors that taught me most that I know about IT, when he started information technology, you needed to be a licensed welder, because if you needed to change a component on the computer back in the days, you needed a blowtorch to take the transistors off and weld them back on again. We're talking the IBM, you need a warehouse to store a computer.
Yeah. And you know what? It wasn't that long ago. My brother, who repaired photocopy machines all the way up into the mid 90s, he still carried a soldering iron with him, even though everything was closed circuit board. I agree, Dragon Ruse. Nosferatu is a naughty, naughty creature.
That's true. Yes.
That's why he gets so much action.
Hey, so speaking of the movies and stuff, one of the things I had on my list, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen this. So when I was a teenager, I lived in Japan because my dad was stationed there, and there was a show on TV. It only ran for like 2 years. It came out in '83. It was called Armor Trooper Votoms, VOTOMS, and it's about like these. They're not giant mechs, but they're mechs that you sit in, and they have an AI in it so that it can learn. And anyway, it's a really good animation, and the story is really good.
I know this series.
Yeah, so that was one I was going to bring up. Like if we had nothing left to talk about, which we still have plenty. I mean, we always have stuff.
Actually, we have tons to talk about.
Yeah,
we have about 10 minutes left.
But anyway,
I'm happy if you drop the link in the chat, the private chat or public chat, your choice, because I'm just rounding up an anime show that I grew up with that came out in 1978 called Cyborg 009. And
is that a Japanese one, or?
I'm not sure exactly where it comes from, but the new one, the remake they did, the visuals are so stunning. It's just like, wow, is this animation or almost?
Did it have a lady made out of like silver metal in it as a robot? I'm thinking of Cobra. Never mind. That's the one where the dude's arm turns into a gun. That one's pretty good too.
That's a different one, but there is one of the cyborg operatives, and cheekily enough, the show is called Cyborg 009, but there are all the numbers before that, and the nationality of Cyborg 007 is a British operative. 007.
Oh.
It's quite cheeky, but this is a show that came out originally in the late 70s, but the one I've been catching up on must be very recent, because the animation, the art style, the cameras, the 4K resolution that would not be something from the 1970s. But it's still awesome, visually stunning, and it's like absolutely amazing.
Oh, I just looked it up. Yeah, I've seen this before. I've seen like one episode of the old 70s one. I haven't seen the newer one. Oh, yeah, it's got okay. Yeah, familiar with this.
We got so far off course.
Well, I
we're
mean,
we're still talking war.
yeah,
because
they're just
Yes,
they're war
but
shows,
yes.
but they're animes.
So we're gonna bring it down now. So
Yes.
Jim the Viking, what do you have going on this week?
So we got Saturday stream coming up, I believe, and I don't have the schedule ahead of me, but we should be back on track for Wednesdays again. Quick break because PJ is doing something that you, Roman, might consider a nightmare, which is
I know.
taking
Moving stuff.
everything out and then putting everything back in again.
Right.
So
Terrible.
he's up to that, but we should be back on regular schedules.
Are you
on
gonna?
this Saturday.
I've heard we're gonna do a 15th thing on Tuesday for the prisoner.
Right.
That's on FFSI, which is
Yep.
separate. It's kind of part of it, but it is run by Mr.
Oh
AWK.
yeah.
And it's on the FFSI, so Foxtrot, Sierra, Indigo channel. And that's more focused on the Doctor Who crap, the animatronics was called the British. Oh, the
Are you
name's
talking about the
completely
puppets?
It's like Captain.
Yeah, the
Captain
Jerry Anderson
Scarlet.
stuff.
Yeah, Captain Scarlet, Jerry Anderson, because they're massive fans of that. So
like
that's
the
more focused
Thunderbirds
toward that
Go
day.
kind of.
Correct.
Yes.
Thunderbirds. Yes, that's
Yeah.
the one. He's gonna kill me when he sees this. But yeah, that's usually the stuff we're up to. So I would say catch us Saturday, 8 p.m. UK time. Might be a bit early for you guys, but do grab your coffee and join us, drunken British people.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen,
Yes, sir.
I'm very tired. So what do you have going on in your 9,000 things this week?
Well, not 9,000 things, but I
It's
do have a stream that I'm going to be doing this Friday. I'm not really sure what the subject is, but it's with a gentleman I've been doing some streams with called Potato Revan. And usually it's, open discussion about Starfleet Federation and how it may have evolved after the Dominion Wars, or
called
what should the Jedi Council should have evolved into instead of what actually happened. Just speculative, mega
yeah,
geek
that's good stuff.
conversations.
Very solid. We had these
And that
fights on
should
the
be,
patio all week long.
That's Friday about maybe 5, 6 o'clock Pacific time. So run the clock backwards towards the UK.
All right, so Shieldwall of Dragons.
So I don't have anything going on because I don't have a channel. Or
I
anything.
know.
But
you need to, though. You need to.
Maybe next year. I got a lot going on right now in my life, but I really appreciate you having me on here. It's fun. It's film school with Steven. That should be like a channel or something. And it was nice meeting you, Jim the Viking. You got a lot of good experiences going through all that training and the telling me about mosquitoes and stuff. Wear a raincoat. So that's great. No, but for real, it's great meeting you, and lots of good info there. Yeah. Oh, also, Roman, you put out on Twitter that the that steak that you cooked earlier, that thing looked delicious. So
I try.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, thanks for having me on. This is a great time, and thanks to chat. Everybody's just blowing it up in there. So Great.
Yeah, we got some great people in our chat.
Yeah. This was
Thank you for the mention there, but now I got really curious. Roman, you have a cooking channel? Because I will definitely pick you up on that challenge.
no, it's not actually a cooking channel, Jim. It's just me posting pictures of food.
Delicious looking food. It looked really good.
Sorry, it's not that exciting. It's still mildly exciting.
It is if
So-
you've only had soup for 2 weeks in a row.
I do. I cook a lot. I'm a big, backyard chef kind of fellow. So anyway, thank you for joining us this week for solving the world's problems. Sorry about the many technical difficulties that embroiled us this week. Fuck off everything. It was not good. We'll see you again next week. If you choose to tune in, you've been exposed to a lot of different people this week. Jim the Viking, tune in. Shieldwall of Dragons, find him. Prophet of the Dragon, find him. These are all great channels. Find those folks. So here we are, and we're tuning off, and be kind.